Chapter 16:26. If this monk Zhuanluan was a weakling, then this monk Zhuanluan would not be qualified to join forces with little Yao Wang Han Yi and young Master Huang. If Chu Fengmian's strength was not on the same level as Han Yi and young Master Huang, the two of them would not have schemed against Chu Fengmian. They would have killed Chu Fengmian at that time. The most important point was that monk Zhuanluan was a Buddhist martial artist. Just now, he had suddenly activated the Buddhist restriction in the temple and brought great trouble to Chu Fengmian. It was impossible to tell how many remaining forbidding auras and formations there were left in the temple. If this Zhuanluan monk was able to control all of these Buddhist seals and formations, he would definitely be able to do so. In this temple, monk Zhuanluan was much more of a threat to Chu Fengmian than Han Yi and young Master Huang combined. Chu Fengmian fixed his gaze on the Zhuanluan monk, observing his every move. Chu Fengmian had already activated the power in his body to the extreme. As long as monk Zhuanluan made any move, Chu Fengmian would be able to attack at any time. Kill? We Buddhists never kill the innocent. I only want one thing from you. As long as you hand over the 10,000 thoughts Buddhist beads, I will not interfere in the feud between you two. Monk Zhuanluan stared at the Buddhist beads on Chu Fengmian's right wrist and said slowly, "These 10,000 thoughts Buddhist beads are items of the Buddhist school to begin with. Almsgiver, by obtaining them, you are merely blaspheming them and will be punished by the Buddhist school. Only by handing over the 10,000 thoughts Buddhist beads will you be able to wash away your sins." Wash away my sins? You want this 10,000 thoughts Buddhist beads? A Buddhist item? Monk, you don't have to pretend to be sanctimonious. Buddhist monks are just like the records. They're all sanctimonious villains. Chu Fengmian sneered when he heard monk Zhuanluan's words. The 10,000 thoughts Buddhist beads was the only treasure on Chu Fengmian that could resist the Buddhist prohibition. Without this 10,000 thoughts Buddhist beads, it would be difficult for Chu Fengmian to escape from the temple. If Chu Fengmian were to hand over the 10,000 chant Buddhist beads, the Zhuanluan monk could activate the power of a few seals and kill him. It was impossible to make Chu Fengmian hand over the 10,000 chant Buddhist beads. Really? Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll have to do it myself. Hearing Chu Fengmian's rejection, monk Zhuanluan's eyes flickered with golden light. He was enraged. Behind him, an ancient Buddha shadow appeared. The power of Buddhism gushed out. Both of the reincarnation monk's hands moved continuously. All of a sudden, the power of Buddhism gathered in his palms and turned into a gigantic Buddha seal that blasted towards Chu Fengmian. True Buddha, suppressing seal. The moment Chu Fengmian saw monk Zhuanluan striking out, he immediately understood what was going on. The move that monk Zhuanluan had executed was the famous suppression killing skill of Buddhism. Within the ancient Buddhist sects, experts were as common as clouds. Many powerful Buddhist techniques were recorded in ancient books and circulated throughout the 9 regions. The true Buddha suppressing seal was one of them. It was said that once it was activated, it could easily kill a martial artist of the same realm. Although it was not an immortal technique, it was comparable to one. It was said that the creator of the true Buddha suppressing seal was a Buddhist ancestor. The power of this move was comparable to the first 3 levels of the 9 mysterious immortal technique. Although it was not an immortal technique, it had already surpassed the scope of ordinary martial techniques. This move was one of the supreme killing moves in Buddhism. Chu Fengmian did not expect monk Zhuanluan to be able to use this move. It seemed that monk Zhuanluan was definitely a big shot in the Pure Land Star field. It was highly possible that he was a super genius comparable to the Holy Dragon Secret Dimensions leader. The moment the true Buddha suppressing seal blasted down, Chu Fengmian felt that his body began to tremble under the power of the palm. Waves of spiritual energy had already shrouded Chu Fengmian's body. It was difficult for Chu Fengmian to mobilize his spiritual energy to defend himself. The suppression killing skill was to suppress before killing. The moment the Buddha seal blasted down, Chu Fengmian's body was under great pressure. He was about to be suppressed by this force. Sword out. 9 mysterious swordsmanship. Tailing. Giant door. Lutsuan. Tianji. Chu Fengmian roared. The ancestral Dragon Supreme sword suddenly appeared in Chu Fengmian's hand. The moment Chu Fengmian held the spiritual sword, a towering sword essence erupted from Chu Fengmian's body. The Buddha light that was suppressing Chu Fengmian was completely destroyed. Stars appeared in the sky. The power of the stars condensed on the sword in Chu Fengmian's hand. Suddenly, the sword soared into the sky. Chu Fengmian did not hold back. In an instant, he struck out the first 4 moves of the 9 mysterious swordsmanship. The dazzling sword radiance flashed. The power of the stars condensed and turned into a long river of stars. Countless sword chi condensed in it and collided with the true Buddha suppressing seal. The power of the true Buddha suppressing seal was comparable to the first 3 moves of the 9 mysterious immortal technique. But now, Chu Fengmian had already comprehended the 4th move of the 9 mysterious immortal technique, Tianji. The 4th move of the 9 mysterious immortal technique had truly broken away from martial skills and stepped into the category of immortal technique. When the first 4 moves of the 9 mysterious swordsmanship collided with the true Buddha suppressing seal, the power of the true Buddha suppressing seal was immediately destroyed. The force of the collision forced the Zhuanluan monk to retreat a few steps back. After the reincarnation monk was forced to retreat, several sword chi slashed towards the reincarnation monk. However, when the sword chi slashed the reincarnation monk's body, the reincarnation monk's body suddenly emitted a glazed light. The body of the reincarnation monk had transformed into a crystalline, glass-like body. When the sword chi slashed the reincarnation monk's body, it was unable to shake the reincarnation monk's body. Instead, the sword chi was shattered by the rebounding force. Diamond glazed body. When Chu Fengmian saw the diamond glazed body on the reincarnation monk's body, he could tell that it was one of the most mysterious secret techniques of Buddhism, the diamond glazed body. Chu Fengmian had once killed a demonic puppet. That demonic puppet had cultivated the diamond glazed body when it was alive. However, the diamond glazed body cultivated by that demonic puppet was obviously far from being comparable to the reincarnation monk's. The diamond glazed body of the reincarnation monk had already shown a glaze color. It was obvious that it had reached the great accomplishment stage. According to the rumors, the diamond glazed body was close to the immortal real body when it reached the great accomplishment stage. Even though the reincarnation monk had not cultivated the diamond glazed body to the extreme, the sword chi that was as powerful as the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu's full force attack could not break the reincarnation monk's body. Chapter 16:27 was the background of this monk. True Buddha suppressing seal and Vajra glazed body are secret techniques from different branches of ancient Buddhism. Only Buddha supremes with high status are qualified to cultivate one of them. How could this monk cultivate both? Chu Fengmian frowned when he saw the glazed color on the monk's body. Both the true Buddha suppressing seal and Vajra glazed body were secret techniques of high level and belonged to different branches of Buddhism. Even Buddha supremes with high status would find it difficult to cultivate both at the same time. However, the monk in front of him had cultivated both secret techniques. Moreover, whether it was the true Buddha suppressing seal or the Vajra glazed body, this person had already cultivated these 2 secret techniques to an extremely high level. The monk definitely had a high status in Pure Land Star field. Otherwise, he wouldn't be qualified to cultivate so many profound secret techniques of Buddhism at the same time. There might be some trouble if he killed this monk. However, Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid of any trouble at this point. The monk had stood out to be Chu Fengmian's enemy. He had almost tricked Chu Fengmian and caused him to fall into eternal damnation. Even if the monk had a shocking background, Chu Fengmian had to kill him today. The murderous intent in Chu Fengmian's eyes grew stronger. On the other side, the monk who was forced back by Chu Fengmian's sword was extremely shocked. Immortal art. This is the power of an immortal art. The power of the true Buddha suppressing seal was almost invincible against an immortal art. However, the true Buddha suppressing seal was broken by Chu Fengmian's sword. The sword just now was almost as powerful as an immortal art. It was already extremely shocking for an 8 tribulations Emperor Gu to be able to use an immortal art. The power of an immortal art was strong, but it was also very demanding on the comprehension of martial Tao. For an ordinary Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu, even if they had obtained an immortal art, they wouldn't be able to use it. After all, only when one's comprehension of martial Tao had reached the level of celestial being could he use an immortal art. The fact that Chu Fengyan could use an immortal art proved that his martial Tao was comparable to the celestial being realm. Martial Tao comprehension of celestial being realm. Little Yao Wang Han Yi stared at Chu Fengyan. He could also see the mystery of Chu Fengyan's swordsmanship. Little Yao Wang Han Yi, among the saints in the sacred dragon secret territory, was the one with the highest martial Tao comprehension. Although he didn't get the power inheritance, his martial Tao comprehension of martial Tao was no less than King Yao Wang. Therefore, he was called Little King Yao. However, even the former King Yao did not comprehend martial arts to the level of the celestial realm. Chu Fengyan was martial Tao in front of him. Monk. All of a sudden, little Yao Wang Han Yi let out a long howl. The spiritual power in his body exploded, condensing on his fist. He immediately punched towards Chu Fengyan. At the moment of this punch, a shadow appeared behind little glory King Han Ye's back. This shadow was tall and mighty, and every move contained the ultimate martial intent. The power contained in this shadow was almost exactly the same as the power contained in little Yao Wang Han Ye's body. When he punched out, it was as if little Yao Wang Han Yi and the shadow behind him were attacking together. Two forces erupted from this punch at the same time and immediately bombarded Chu Fengyan. This shadow was none other than King Yao Wang. Little Yao Wang Han Yi had inherited King Yao Wang's inheritance, and his martial Tao was no less than that of the former King Yao Wang. As the punch blasted out, the whole passage was filled with the surging power of martial Tao. He wanted to use this martial intent to kill Chu Fengyan. Chu Fengyan saw this punch containing the ultimate martial intent, but his expression did not change. He held the spirit sword in his hand, and nothing in the world was enough to make Chu Fengyan afraid. The moment the fist approached, the sword in Chu Fengyan's hand moved, and a sword light soared into the sky. The moment the sword light flashed, the bloody smell of Ning Lai immediately erupted. Sword Art of Slaughter. The moment Chu Fengyan struck out this sword, he was like the incarnation of an ancient god of slaughter. Under this sword, everything was destroyed. Chu Fengyan didn't know how many experts and enemies he had killed along the way. All of his killing intent erupted at this moment, condensing on the sword and striking out this sword art of slaughter. The blood-red sword light was thousands of feet long, enveloping the whole passage. The moment little Yao Wang Han Ye's fist of glory collided with the sword art of slaughter, it was immediately broken, and the force of the rebound forced little Yao Wang Han Yi to retreat. After repelling little Yao Wang Han Yi with one move, Chu Fengyan had no intention of letting him go. These three people were a disaster for Chu Fengyan. If he could kill one of them, Chu Fengyan's pressure would be reduced a lot. Enduring the pursuit, Chu Fengyan's body flickered again and again. Suddenly, another sword light struck out, aiming directly at little Yao Wang Han Yi. Commandment Mantra! Monk Xuanluan suddenly appeared in front of Chu Fengyan, blocking Chu Fengyan. In his mouth, countless ancient Sanskrit words were recited. These ancient Sanskrit words, as Monk Xuanlun recited them, condensed in the air and formed an ancient array, immediately oppressing Chu Fengyan's body. Chu Fengyan felt that the spiritual power in his body was somewhat disobedient under the pressure of the array condensed by the Sanskrit words. Even Chu Fengyan's mind was now in chaos, and there was a trace of unusual panic. These ancient Sanskrit words were actually enough to suppress Chu Fengyan's power and even disturb Chu Fengyan's cleansing. What a powerful mantra! No wonder it said that Buddhist martial artists are good at bewitching people. In ancient times, countless experts were suppressed by this mantra. Even with my Tao heart, I was somewhat affected. Chu Fengyan's mind moved, and he also realized the power of this mantra. Chu Fengyan had lived two lives, and his Tao heart was stable to an unimaginable degree. Back then, on Heartscar Peak, the king of inner demons could not disturb Chu Fengmian's Tao heart, and was instead subdued by Chu Fengmian. Just talking about Tao heart, Chu Fengmian was not inferior to even a celestial immortal. But even so, the moment he heard the Buddhist mantra, Chu Fengmian felt a little flustered, and his spiritual power was suppressed. This was the Buddhist mantra of the Zhuan Luan monk. If one was caught off guard and was not prepared for it, the Zhuan Luan monk's Buddhist mantra would be extremely powerful. Even in 9 tribulations, Emperor Gu might be affected by this Buddhist mantra, lose his mind, and become a slave of Buddhism. Chapter 16:28. In the ancient times when the Pure Land sect still existed, countless experts were bewitched by the mantra and became slaves of Buddhism. Even Chu Fengmian almost fell for it. However, this was also because it was the first time Chu Fengmian heard the mantra of Buddhism and was unprepared. If he had been prepared, the mantra would not have been able to shake his Tao heart. Trying to bewitch me with the mantra of Buddhism? Break my Tao heart? What a joke. No one in the world can break my Tao heart. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. After he put down his guard, the trace of panic in his mind dissipated in an instant. Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy that was restrained was also completely released. At the same time, Chu Fengmian suddenly opened his mouth and roared. What came out of Chu Fengmian's mouth was not human language, but a dragon's roar. This dragon's roar was incomparably noble. Even the roar of a real ancient war dragon could not be compared to it. 8 Tianlong notes. With the purity of Chu Fengmian's bloodline, the power of the 8 Tianlong notes was not inferior to the dragon's roar of a real war dragon. The dragon's roar was enough to destroy all ghosts and demons. How can this person's Tao heart be so strong? My mantra can't even affect him? Monk Zhuanluan was shocked to see Chu Fengmian wake up so quickly. With his mantra of Buddhism, even Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations could be directly affected if he was not prepared. Even if he was prepared, his Tao heart would be affected. As long as his Tao heart was broken, he could take advantage of the chaos to strike and kill with one blow. However, he did not expect Chu Fengmian to wake up immediately after being affected for only a moment. The firmness of Chu Fengmian's Tao heart was beyond Monk Zhuanluan's expectation. He was already close to Chu Fengmian. He wanted to take the opportunity to launch a sneak attack on Chu Fengmian and kill him with one blow. Now, Chu Fengmian suddenly reacted. With a dragon's roar, the ancient Sanskrit characters formed by the mantra of Buddhism beside Chu Fengmian were immediately shattered and scattered in the air. Oh no! The moment Monk Zhuanluan caught sight of the countless ancient Sanskrit characters being broken, his face changed as he retreated hurriedly. However, it was too late. The power of Tianlong's 8 melodies gathered in the air and blasted towards the Zhuanluan monk. Like a dragon claw, the attack landed heavily on the Zhuanluan monk's chest. The moment the Tianlong's 8 melodies collided, a glassy light burst forth and neutralized 90% of the power of the Tianlong's 8 melodies. However, even though it was only 10% of his strength, it was still a huge blow to the Zhuanluan monk. Bang! The Zhuanluan monk's body was sent flying. His face was pale, and the spiritual energy in his body was in a mess. Even though he wasn't severely injured, the Wheel of Reincarnation monk had consumed a large amount of spiritual energy to withstand this attack. Great freedom, nirvana rebirth. The Zhuanluan monk roared out in rage. Behind him, a patch of nothingness appeared as a massive amount of energy of the Buddhist sect gathered around his body. The injuries on his body were gradually recovering under the continuous flow of Buddhist energy. This Zhuanluan monk can actually absorb the energy in this Buddhist temple to recover from his injuries. Chu Fengmian's face darkened when he saw this. This Buddhist temple was filled with an unimaginable amount of Buddhist energy. If the Zhuanluan monk could continue to absorb the Buddhist energy within this Buddhist temple to recover from his injuries, he would definitely be able to do so. The Zhuanluan monk could be said to be immortal in this Buddhist temple, unless Chu Fengmian could destroy all the Buddhist energy in this Buddhist temple. However, that was almost impossible. The Zhuanluan monk was extremely tough to deal with. He was extremely powerful. If they were outside, Chu Fengmian might have a chance to kill him. However, in this Buddhist temple, Chu Fengmian's chances of killing the Zhuanlun monk were close to zero. I have to think of a way. After Chu Fengmian forced the Zhuanlun monk to retreat, he didn't follow up with another attack. Instead, he looked around and thought of a countermeasure. Young Master Huang, little Yao Wang, how about we join forces to kill this man? On the other side, the Zhuanlun monk recovered from his injuries and looked at Chu Fengmian again. However, this time, he didn't attack again. Instead, he spoke to young Master Huang and little Yao Wang Hanyi. In a one-on-one battle, he had already suffered a great loss when fighting with Chu Fengmian. Naturally, he didn't want to fight with Chu Fengmian alone. All right, let's attack together. Little Yao Wang Hanyi and young Master Huang looked at each other and nodded at the same time. They gathered their spiritual power and immediately bombarded Chu Fengmian. The two of them originally planned to sit on the mountain and reap the benefits. This time, they asked the Zhuanlun monk to attack. They had offered a reward of 50% of the treasures in the mausoleum of the golden-bodied Buddha. Therefore, from the beginning, the two of them didn't plan to attack. They just sat there. However, now that they saw that the Zhuanlun monk was no match for Chu Fengmian, they immediately changed their minds. Their enemy was still Chu Fengmian. They had heard of Chu Fengmian's character. Once, Chu Fengmian dared to flatten two sects in the sacred dragon mystery dimension for the sake of Luo Kong, a disciple of the Sacred Academy sect. He even became an enemy of the higher-ups of the sacred dragon mystery dimension. Revenge must be exacted. Today, they had already shed all pretense of cordiality with Chu Fengmian. If they let Chu Fengmian leave alive, they would be the ones to die. Supreme martial artist. Little Yao Wang Han Ye's figure flickered. On his fist wind, ancient power gathered. The aura of little Yao Wang Han Yi was completely different from before. Little Yao Wang Han Yi was able to become the leader of the Holy Sons of the Sacred Academy sect. He was even able to compete with the young lord of the Sacred Academy sect, Wu Dao. His strength was naturally not that simple. The last time he made a move, it was just a test. This time, what he displayed was little Yao Wang Han Ye's strongest move. Ancient. Middle Ages. Ancient. Boom. Little Yao Wang Han Yi let out a long roar. On his fist wind, different powers from 3 eras were condensed. This was a punch formed by gathering the martial Dao of 3 eras. It was a punch at the peak of the martial Dao. You do have some strength. Chu Fengmian saw this fist bombarding toward him. He also saw that this fist was completely different from the strength that little Yao Wang Han Yi had just displayed. However, no matter how mysterious his fist technique was, Chu Fengmian broke it with a sword. Chu Fengmian raised his sword and immediately displayed a sword light. This sword light soared into the sky and turned into a sky full of sword shadows. In this sky full of sword shadows, each sword shadow contained a completely different power. When the sword slashed out, it was as if 10,000 sword techniques were launched at the same time. Chapter 1629. The 9 regions sword technique that Chu Fengmian had created recorded the countless sword techniques that he had comprehended in his second life. In his previous life, Chu Fengmian had learned all the sword techniques of the Sword Dao sect and integrated them into his heart. 10,000 years later, Chu Fengmian had left the 9 regions. Many of the sword techniques in the Daoyuo star field were lost in the 9 regions. Even Chu Fengmian had never seen them before. Without exception, these sword techniques had been condensed into the 9 regions sword technique by Chu Fengmian. Now, Chu Fengmian's sword slashed out. It was the 9 regions sword techniques 10,000 sword technique that had been released at the same time. The 10,000 sword technique was mysterious and different. The power of many sword techniques was incompatible with each other. Even a dazzling genius would find it difficult to comprehend so many sword techniques all at once. However, the 10,000 sword technique that Chu Fengmian had released didn't have the slightest conflict. Instead, they complemented each other. The 10,000 sword technique collided with little Yao Wang Hanye's fist in the air. Among the 10,000 sword technique, there were many sword techniques that came from incomparably ancient eras. Little Yao Wang Hanye's fist could be said to have condensed all the martial arts from the ancient, middle, and ancient eras into his fist. The power of this fist surpassed the ancient era. As for Chu Fengmian's sword, it was not at a disadvantage either. It was a sword made from the best swordsmanship of every era. Boom! The two forces were in a stalemate in the air. How can this person know so many sword techniques? Even the most dazzling sword genius wouldn't dare to learn so many sword arts. Many of these sword arts were incompatible with each other. If they were to learn all of them at the same time, they would only be digging their own grave. Edited by Lifer. Fingerfox. How is this possible? Little Yao Wang Hanya was in disbelief when he saw Chu Fengmian's 10,000 sword technique. It wasn't difficult to find the 10,000 sword technique, whether it was in the Sacred Dragon's secret domain or in a force like Qi Lin Shan. From tens of thousands of years ago to the current era, who knew how many sword techniques had been left behind? However, even if there were so many sword techniques left behind, no one dared to cultivate them all. This was because the sword will in many sword techniques were completely different. Once they were cultivated at the same time, it would conflict with one's body. If it was light, he would suffer a backlash. If it was serious, he might even go berserk and die. Martial artists who had once tried to cultivate a large number of swordsmanship martial skills, without exception, had all ended up in their own deaths. Even cultivating hundreds of sword arts with similar sword intents was extremely difficult. After all, cultivating countless sword arts at the same time would definitely cause distractions. It was almost impossible to achieve great success. Just like the little Yao Wang Han Yi in front of him, his martial arts aptitude was extremely high, but what he cultivated was the invincible tyrant martial way. Other than that, he had no other martial arts. Now, Chu Fengmian is actually using 10,000 different sword techniques at the same time. This is simply beyond little Yao Wang Han Ye's understanding. In particular, there were many conflicting forces in the 10,000 sword arts. However, when Chu Fengmian struck it out, the 10,000 sword arts became extremely powerful. These two sword techniques, which were like fire and water, could actually be used together. They even complemented each other. This person is really too monstrous. How is this the second Yinzun? This is much more terrifying than Yinzun. The killing intent in little Yao Wang Hanye's eyes was even more intense. The former Yinzun, no matter how monstrous, was also within common sense. But now, Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship was already beyond common sense. No martial artist would dare to practice countless sword arts in large numbers like Chu Fengmian. This was no longer a human being, but a monstrous genius. A monstrous genius that should not exist in this world. Overlord of the firmament. Little Yao Wang Han Ye's eyes flickered. Suddenly, his figure moved again. His power condensed on his fist wind. Suddenly, another punch blasted towards Chu Fengmian. At the moment of this punch, little Yao Wang Han Yi suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood essence. The moment this blood essence was spat out, it burned fiercely. Strong and pure spiritual power condensed on the fist wind of little Yao Wang Han Yi, and he once again blasted towards Chu Fengmian. From behind him, little Yao Wang's shadow also punched at the same time. One person and one shadow. Two fist winds, one from the left and one from the right, blasted towards Chu Fengmian. Buddha's wrath. Boom! Above Chu Fengmian's head, Monk Xuanluan also made move. His body was boiling with anger, burning with golden flames. Under this anger, it was as if it was enough to punish all living things in the world. He turned into a real Buddha, and his anger turned the world upside down. The billowing anger turned into a Buddha's seal, aimed at Chu Fengmian, and fell from the sky. Master Phoenix was not to be outdone. At this moment, the bloodline power in his body was fully activated. His whole body turned into a real phoenix. Two incomparably huge phoenix claws blasted towards Chu Fengmian. Master Phoenix, Monk Xuanluan, and little Yao Wang Han Yi These three famous geniuses from different forces joined forces at this moment and launched an attack towards Chu Fengmian. The attacks of the three were like an inescapable net, sandwiching Chu Fengmian in it. Now, Chu Fengmian had no way to retreat. Boy, your death today is a foregone conclusion. If you want to blame someone, blame it on your arrogance. Master Phoenix stared at Chu Fengmian and laughed ferociously. The strength of the three of them was among the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, and they were all incomparably powerful existences. With the three of them joining forces, even if the 5-element Saber Saint, who was half a step away from the celestial being realm, came, he might not be able to gain any advantage. Of course, if the real 5-element Saber Saint came, the three of them would not even have the chance to join forces and would be killed by the 5-element Saber Saint. Although Chu Fengmian's strength was strong, he had not reached the level of half a step away from the celestial being realm. This gave the three of them an opportunity to attack at the same time. When the three of them attacked, all of them unleashed their killing moves, especially little Yao Wang Hanyi. He did not hesitate to burn his own essence and blood to increase the power of his punch by 3 times. Every drop of the essence and blood of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu was incomparably noble. Even if a part of it was burned, it would require an amazing adventure to have the chance to make up for it. This little Yao Wang Han Yi was willing to pay such a high price to kill Chu Fengmian. This proved how much he wanted to kill Chu Fengmian. Little Yao Wang Han Ye's gaze was also fixed on Chu Fengmian. He also wanted to see the moment when Chu Fengmian was killed. In his eyes, Chu Fengmian was already a dead man. Chapter 16:30. To make the three of us join forces, you can die without regrets today. Little Yao Wang Han Yi sneered at Chu Fengmian. For Chu Fengmian, it was a dead end. No matter how many opportunities there were, the gap between the realms was difficult to make up. 8 tribulations Emperor Gu was after all in 8 tribulations Emperor Gu. No matter how many opportunities there were, Chu Fengmian would definitely die if the three of them joined forces. The three of them joined forces. Fist Wind, Buddha's Seal, and Claw Attack. The moment the three forces approached Chu Fengmian, a terrifying power shrouded him. Even a 9 tribulation ancient emperor could be killed instantly under the pressure of the aura. Under the shroud of these 3 forces, Chu Fengmian's face became extremely dignified. The strength of any one of these 3 people was extremely terrifying. When the 3 of them joined forces, their strength could not be controlled to an incredible extent. Unless it was a half-step celestial being, it was difficult for anyone to contend against the 3 of them. Power of the Divine Tree. Bless my body. Bloodline of the Dragon Emperor. Ancient Dragon Emperor body. Immortal real body. Roar. A dragon's roar came out from Chu Fengmian's back. The power in his bloodline broke out to the extreme at this moment. On Chu Fengmian's body, the pure dragon power turned into dragon scales. Each dragon scale was like the eye of an array, forming an ancient array. Behind Chu Fengmian, the shadow of the divine tree emerged. On Chu Fengmian's skin, flesh and blood crystals appeared. 129,600 flesh and blood crystals gathered together to protect Chu Fengmian's body. When the 3 forces bombarded him, Chu Fengmian held the spiritual sword in his hand and suddenly soared into the sky. One sword breaks the firmament. Boom! The sword aura was 10,000 feet long. As the sword soared into the sky, it had the power to tear the world apart. At the moment when Chu Fengmian drew his sword, Master Huang's lips curled into a sneer. World-extinguishing phoenix flame. Rumble. From Chu Fengmian's chest, countless red flames suddenly gushed out. World-extinguishing phoenix flames. When young Master Huang and Chu Fengmian were exchanging blows, the world-extinguishing phoenix flame was quietly used. All this while, it had been hidden in Chu Fengmian's chest. Young Master Phoenix had been waiting for this moment. In Chu Fengmian's most dangerous situation, the world-extinguishing phoenix flames had suddenly erupted, almost wiping out Chu Fengmian's last ray of hope. Pooh! Chu Fengmian's figure was forced back again and again. Although the world-extinguishing phoenix flame wasn't enough to kill Chu Fengmian, it still caused him to be seriously injured. In an instant, Chu Fengmian's face turned incomparably pale. The power of the sword qi was also much weaker than before. Crack! They collided. This strand of sword qi was unable to withstand a single blow from the combined forces of these three forces. There was no stalemate. The tens of thousands of sword qi was immediately destroyed. The three forces bombarded Chu Fengmian's body at the same time, setting off countless explosions. Chu Fengmian's body shook violently. These three forces didn't just want to destroy Chu Fengmian's physical body, they also wanted to destroy all of Chu Fengmian's blood essence. Among them, the Buddha seal that Monk Xuanluan had struck Chu Fengmian's body. The blood essence in Chu Fengmian's body started to be destroyed under this force. This kid is dead. Young Master Huang sneered when he saw this scene. Chu Fengmian's physical body had already been damaged by more than half in an instant. His physical body would definitely be destroyed. Moreover, Monk Xuanluan was still aiming for Chu Fengmian's blood essence. Once Chu Fengmian's blood essence was destroyed, Chu Fengmian would die no matter how capable he was. I'm dead. You think you can kill me with just the three of you? All of a sudden, Chu Fengmian's laughter resounded in the midst of the bombardment. There wasn't any hint of panic in his laughter. Instead, he was extremely confident, as if he hadn't fallen into a hopeless situation. This kid is still being stubborn? He really doesn't know what death is. Hearing Chu Fengmian's laughter, little Yao Wang Han Ye's face turned gloomy. He threw another punch at Chu Fengmian. I'd like to see how long you can hold on. Boom! Another punch came down. Chu Fengmian's voice suddenly became dull. It was as if he couldn't hold on under this huge force. Little Yao Wang Han Yi, Monk Xuanluan, and young Master Huang's faces all revealed smiles. Young Master Huang was the first to take a step forward. Suddenly, he rushed towards Chu Fengmian and grabbed Chu Fengmian's right hand. Young Master Huang's target was Chu Fengmian's empty ring. Chu Fengmian had such strength. He must have obtained many treasures in the 9 regions. The treasures in Chu Fengmian's empty ring would not be few. Young Master Huang was the first to have such thoughts. He took advantage of the moment when little Yao Wang Han Yi and Monk Xuanluan had yet to take action. He suddenly took action to snatch Chu Fengmian's empty ring. Young Master Huang. Seeing young Master Huang suddenly take action, little Yao Wang Han Yi and Monk Xuanluan's faces changed. They also saw through young Master Huang's thoughts. Their faces were extremely gloomy, and they didn't have time to stop him. Young Master Huang's body had already rushed in front of Chu Fengmian. This kid's empty ring is mine. Young Master Huang sneered and reached out his hand to grab it. But at this moment, a palm suddenly blasted out. Chu Fengmian, who was stagnant and seemed to have fallen, suddenly took action. This palm was fast like a sharp sword, suddenly bombarding young Master Huang. In such a fast situation, young Master Huang didn't have time to react. Chu Fengmian's palm bombarded his chest. You! Young Master Huang didn't have time to say anything. The power in Chu Fengmian's palm condensed and suddenly hit young Master Huang's chest. Young Master Huang's body immediately exploded. Essence and blood spurted out all over the sky. Chu Fengmian was already prepared. The moment he blasted out his palm, the sky-devouring secret skill had already appeared on young Master Huang's body. Not a single drop of young Master Huang's essence and blood was left. All of it was devoured by the sky-devouring secret skill. As the sky-devouring secret skill was activated, young Master Huang's consciousness was completely obliterated. His essence and blood were turned into pure spiritual power and poured into Chu Fengmian's body. Young Master Huang's bloodline was incomparably pure Phoenix bloodline. The bloodline was noble, and the power it contained was not comparable to the essence and blood of ordinary martial artists. Chapter 16:31. Master Phoenix was one of the most dazzling geniuses in Qilin Mountain. He had already stepped into the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. He was invincible among the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. He had a promising future and was a super genius who could step into the half-step celestial being realm. But now, he was killed by Chu Fengmian. Even young Master Huang himself could not have imagined that he would fall in such a manner. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Chu Fengmian's attack was too fast. Young Master Phoenix didn't even have time to say his last words. Jiuyu had already been destroyed by Chu Fengmian. Young Master Phoenix's body was immediately destroyed by Chu Fengmian. His essence blood was immediately absorbed and refined by Chu Fengmian. The Phoenix bloodline was one of the most noble bloodlines in the world, comparable to the ancient battle dragon bloodline. It even contained some of the power of the primordial divine beast, Sky Phoenix. After Chu Fengmian devoured Master Phoenix's blood essence, 200 drops of the battle dragon blood essence in his body immediately devoured the power of the Phoenix bloodline and turned into the Dragon Emperor blood essence. Chu Fengmian's figure flew out from the explosion. There was no injury on Chu Fengmian's body. Under such a bombardment, he was unscathed. You, why didn't you die? Little Yao Wang Han Yi waited until the essence blood of young Master Huang had been refined by Chu Fengmian. Then, as if waking up from a dream, he reacted. The scene just now was almost beyond his imagination, causing him to be unable to react in time. He was stunned. Now little Yao Wang Han Yi looked at Chu Fengmian, who was unscathed. He could not imagine that such a terrible bombardment was unscathed. In little Yao Wang Han Yi's view, Chu Fengmian was already dead. The three of them had joined forces and forced Chu Fengmian into a desperate situation. If little Yao Wang Han Yi was the one who resisted the joint bombardment, he would have died. Even a half-step celestial being realm expert could not bear such a terrible bombardment. Even if Chu Fengmian did not die under the bombardment, he should at least be seriously injured. But now, Chu Fengmian was unscathed and had even killed young Master Phoenix with a single strike. It was as if the person who had just been attacked by the three of them wasn't Chu Fengmian. The smile on Monk Xuanluan's face froze. He had always been a cautious person. However, when he saw Chu Fengmian in a hopeless situation, he immediately changed his mind. There was no doubt that Chu Fengmian was going to die. Even if he took 10,000 steps back, Chu Fengmian had suddenly made a breakthrough and stepped into the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Under such a terrifying attack, he could only die. Now Chu Fengmian was completely unscathed. This was something that the two of them could never have imagined, even in their wildest dreams. Moreover, young Master Huang had already died in the hands of Chu Fengmian. Initially, the three of them had besieged Chu Fengmian. Now, there were only 2 of them left. Little Yao, Wang Hanya, and Monk Xuanluan's face revealed an incomparably grim expression. While the 2 of them were amazed, Chu Fengmian was also amazed. This rotten wood is really amazing. It's a pity that this rotten wood can't be devoured by the divine tree. Otherwise, the divine tree would have increased its strength by a lot after devouring this rotten wood. Chu Fengmian couldn't help but sigh. The last wisp of lignification on his body was completely removed. The moment when he was besieged by the 3 of them, Chu Fengmian suddenly activated the rotten wood that he had taken from Ancestor by Luo's hands. He used lignification of his body to withstand the joint attack of the 3 of them. No matter how strong Chu Fengmian's body was, he would be seriously injured if he didn't die from such a bombardment. Therefore, Chu Fengmian suddenly thought of the piece of rotten wood that he had taken from Ancestor by Luo's hands. Chu Fengmian had seen the magic of that piece of rotten wood. Ancestor by Luo used this piece of rotten wood to lignify his body. Even Chu Fengmian couldn't kill him. He was invincible. Once one's body was lignified, it was enough to increase the enormous life force contained in the rotten wood, making one immortal. Chu Fengmian had borrowed the power of the rotten wood. When the 3 of them joined forces to attack Chu Fengmian, his body had turned into wood. Although his body had been torn apart, he had recovered from his injuries in the blink of an eye by relying on the enormous vitality of the rotten wood. Therefore, he was able to withstand the attack without suffering any injuries. However, although the rotten wood was magical, it also had a great flaw. First, once one's body was lignified, they couldn't attack or move. When facing a strong enemy, using the power of the rotten wood was just waiting for death. Second, the life force in the rotten wood wasn't endless. Every time it was activated, it had to wait for a long time. It could only be used again when the life force in it recovered. The power of the joint attack of the three of them had almost completely exhausted the life force in the rotten wood. As a result, the rotten wood couldn't be used anymore. Even so, the rotten wood could save Chu Fengmian's life at a critical moment. It was definitely a rare treasure. This time, Chu Fengmian also borrowed the power of the rotten wood to escape a disaster. He even took the opportunity to lure Master Phoenix over. He was careless and was killed by Chu Fengmian in one blow. With Master Phoenix's strength, it wasn't easy for Chu Fengmian to kill him. However, when Master Phoenix rushed in front of Chu Fengmian and wanted to seize Chu Fengmian's empty ring, Chu Fengmian had already treated Chu Fengmian as a dead man. He didn't have any defense against Chu Fengmian. He just wanted to take a step forward and monopolize Chu Fengmian's empty ring. In the end, Chu Fengmian suddenly attacked and killed him with one blow. After killing Master Phoenix, the pressure on Chu Fengmian was greatly reduced. Chu Fengmian looked at the remaining Little Yao, Wang Hanye, and Monk Zhuan Luan. His eyes were full of killing intent. If it wasn't for the rotten wood, Chu Fengmian might have died here. After all, it was in this Buddhist temple. Even if Chu Fengmian wanted to activate the Tianlong change and escape, it would be extremely difficult. Once he entered the passage, he would have to bear the bombardment of countless Buddhist prohibitions. Whether he escaped or not, it was a dead end. He was almost forced into a desperate situation. Chu Fengmian didn't want to let these two people go. Chu Fengmian's cold eyes moved between Little Yao, Wang Hanye, and Monk Zhuan Luan. Finally, Chu Fengmian's eyes locked on Little Yao, Wang Hanye. Monk Zhuan Luan was an unkillable cockroach in the Buddhist temple. Chu Fengmian didn't want to be entangled with him. However, Little Yao, Wang Hanye, didn't have an immortal body. Monk Zhuan Luan, Chu Fengmian could let him go today, but Little Yao, Wang Hanye, must die today. Chapter 1632. Sword out. Heaven and earth split. A sword light soared into the sky, and the world seemed to be torn apart by this sword. When Chu Fengmian's eyes locked on Little Yao, Wang Hanye, he did not speak any nonsense and directly attacked. Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword and Titanic Divine Sword. The two swords came out at the same time, and two distant sword lights. One tore the sky, the other shattered the earth, and everything was shaken to pieces, heading towards Little Yao, Wang Hanye. Little Yao, Wang Hanye. From the first time he met Chu Fengmian, he had been scheming against him. If it weren't for Chu Fengmian's outstanding strength, he would have almost fallen into the hands of this Little Yao, Wang Hanye. There was no reason not to kill for this kind of hatred. Ultimate Martial Dao, Overlord of the Firmament. Invincible Dao, Overlord of the Firmament. In the face of Chu Fengmian's two sword lights, Little Yao, Wang Hanye did not dare to relax. He immediately used all his strength and all his trump cards. From his body, the endless power of the Overlord emerged. The power of the Overlord condensed into a great Dao under his feet. This great Dao was the supreme invincible Dao of the Overlord throughout the ages. Little Yao, Wang Hanye. The moment he stepped on this invincible great path, his aura was invincible. No one in all the heavens was his opponent. Even in the face of Chu Fengmian, he did not have any fear. The power of the Overlord condensed on his fist, and he blasted out a punch, colliding with the sword edge. Little Yao, Wang Hanye, cultivated the way of the Overlord, and he must have an invincible heart. As long as his invincible heart was not broken, he was invincible and had never been defeated. Even the death of Master Huang did not shake his Dao heart. In the face of Chu Fengmian's attack, he brazenly counterattacked, and the power of this punch was not only to resist Chu Fengmian's sword edge. The power of it was directed at Chu Fengmian, and it wanted to kill Chu Fengmian instead. The way of the Overlord, the invincible heart. Chu Fengmian saw that at this moment, this Little Yao, Wang Hanye unexpectedly didn't panic at all and brazenly counterattacked. He also gasped in admiration. It seemed that Little Yao, Wang Hanye's tyrant martial way had indeed been cultivated to an extremely high level. He had an invincible heart. Even in the face of an expert, he would not retreat. He could even erupt with power that was several times stronger than his body, allowing him to look down on everyone. Defeating this kind of tyrant martial Wei was almost impossible. But at the same time, once this tyrant martial Wei was defeated, the Dao heart of little Yao Wang Han Yi would be crushed. Even if Chu Fengyan doesn't kill him, this little Yao Wang Han Yi will become a waste, and his strength will never be able to go any further. With such an invincible heart, no wonder this little Yao Wang Han Yi was a genius who could compete with Wu Dao, the young lord of the Holy Academy sect. The way of the Overlord? Invincible heart. Today, I will crush your martial arts and defeat your invincibility. Chu Fengyan shouted coldly. So what if he had the way of the Overlord and the heart of invincibility? Today, Chu Fengyan will crush this little Yao Wang Han Ye's invincible heart. The moment an invincible person becomes an enemy of Chu Fengyan, he will eventually become a dead man. Behind Chu Fengyan, a shocking sword intent burst out. Countless spiritual power sword intents condensed on the spiritual sword in Chu Fengyan's hand. At the moment of accumulating this power to the extreme, Chu Fengyan's sword edge suddenly soared into the sky. 3 suns. Boom! Billowing flames condensed on Chu Fengyan's sword edge. As Chu Fengyan's sword struck out, it turned into a sea of fire, filling the entire passage. In this sea of fire, the invincible sword edge was contained, sweeping everything before it. Little Yao Wang Han Ye's invincible fist was immediately crushed by the sword edge. The next moment, the sword edge approached little Yao Wang Han Ye's chest. Light of redemption. At this moment, Monk Xuanluan on the side suddenly made a move. Buddha light appeared behind him, and a lotus throne appeared under him. He transformed into a real Buddha. He suddenly stretched out his hand, condensed a ray of light, and grabbed at little Yao Wang Han Yi. Everything that this ray of light passed was pulled into the light. This was another supreme secret technique of the Buddhist League. This technique was the supreme rescue technique of Buddhism, the light of redemption. Even in a dangerous situation, once one stepped into the light of redemption, it was enough to be dangerous. Monk Xuanluan suddenly made a move when little Yao Wang Han Yi was about to be forced into a desperate situation by Chu Fengyan. He wanted to save little Yao Wang Han Yi by using the light of redemption. Want to save someone? I can't kill you today, but you still want to save someone in front of me? Chu Fengyan saw Monk Xuanluan make a move and snorted coldly. Monk Xuanluan made a move to save little Yao Wang Han Yi because he wanted to leave an opponent for Chu Fengyan. After all, the enmity between him and Chu Fengyan had been formed today. Once Monk Xuanluan left the Buddhist temple, Chu Fengyan could kill him. He also planned to save little Yao Wang Han Yi and fight with him against Chu Fengyan in the future. However, how could Chu Fengyan give this kind of opportunity to him? Sword of Creation. Chu Fengyan's natal sword energy in his body suddenly activated at this moment. It condensed into a sword of creation in his palm and immediately slashed at the light of redemption. The defense of the light of redemption was invincible. It was not only used to save people, but also a defensive secret technique of Buddhism. Ordinary sword light might not be able to break the defense of the light of redemption, but the power of creation was the most tyrannical force in the world. The most ferocious and powerful force in the world was the power of thunder tribulation, and the power of creation was the condensation of the power of thunder tribulation. Although Chu Fengyan's natal sword energy was condensed from the power of creation, the power of creation contained in it was extremely small. At most, it could only be used once. However, this time, it was enough to deal with the light of redemption. When the sword of creation was slashed out, everything was disdainful. Nothing could resist the sharpness of the sword of creation. The sword of creation suddenly pierced into the light of redemption. Countless cracks appeared on the invincible defense of the light of redemption, and then it shattered. That little Yao Wang Hanya's complexion immediately paled. He had originally thought that the light of redemption would be able to save him and allow him to escape from danger. However, right before his eyes, the light of redemption had been destroyed by the sword of creation. Creation. Monk Xuanluan spat out these 2 words coldly. There was an indescribable shock in his tone. Everyone knew that the most tyrannical force of all the swords in the world belonged to the creation. However, no one had truly mastered the power of creation. Chu Fengmian's sword of creation was enough to prove that Chu Fengmian had mastered the power of creation. Chapter 1633. Perhaps others did not understand the terror of controlling the power of creation. However, Monk Xuanluan's identity was extraordinary. In the Pure Land star field where he came from, there were many ancient books recorded by the invincible experts of Buddhism. In the past, many invincible experts of the Buddhist sect, and even many Buddhist ancestors, had attempted to control the power of creation. However, no one had succeeded. Buddha was an invincible expert comparable to an immortal emperor. In any era, he was an invincible existence. How could he not be shocked when Chu Fengmian did something that even the Buddha couldn't do? This person's origin is too terrifying. I don't know if he had a fortuitous encounter or if there's a shocking origin behind him. I can't continue to fight with this person today. Monk Xuanluan looked at Chu Fengmian with deep fear and was unwilling to continue the fight. Monk Xuanluan had originally planned to use the various Buddhist prohibitions in the temple to fight with Chu Fengmian. After all, Monk Xuanluan could continuously absorb the power of Buddhism in the temple and was invincible. However, the appearance of the power of creation changed his mind. If Chu Fengmian continuously bombarded him with the power of creation, he would not be able to recover in time and would be killed on the spot. There were many powerful beings of the Buddhist sects who had died under the heavenly tribulations. This monk of Chakravarti did not wish to end up with such an outcome. At least save this person before leaving. This person is also a disciple of the sacred dragon mystery domain. You must know something about this kid. Monk Xuanluan's eyes flickered. He gave up the fight with Chu Fengmian and rushed towards little Yao Wang Hanyi. However, Chu Fengmian's speed was faster than Monk Xuanluan. After breaking Monk Xuanluan's light of redemption, Chu Fengmian's sword fell. Little Yao Wang Han Ye's body exploded under the sword. His body was destroyed mercilessly, and his essence and blood danced in the sky. Sky-devouring secret skill. Almost at the moment little Yao Wang Han Ye's body was destroyed, the sky-devouring secret skill was activated and began to devour little Yao Wang Han Ye's essence and blood. Once all the essence and blood was devoured, it would mean the death of little Yao Wang Han Ye. Let me go. Chu Fengmian, no, Brother Chu, let me go. I'm willing to work for you to deal with Wu Dao. Even the Sacred Academy sect will work for you. Little Yao Wang Han Yi roared crazily. He was defeated by Chu Fengmian, and his invincible heart was broken. Now, he no longer had the appearance of an overlord. He had already become a pitiful dog, constantly begging Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian heard the pleading of little Yao Wang Han Yi, but his face remained unmoved. This little Yao Wang Han Yi had schemed against Chu Fengmian countless times. There was no way Chu Fengmian would keep such a scheming person by his side. Die! Chu Fengmian snorted coldly and immediately channeled his spiritual power into the Devouring the Sky secret technique. The power of the Devouring the Sky secret technique immediately accelerated, frantically devouring the blood essence of Han Yi, Dharma of all living beings, life and death reincarnation. All of a sudden, the reincarnation monk roared out as his aura skyrocketed. White flames started burning on his body. This white flame was not a flame Chu Fengmian had seen before. Although it was called a flame, it contained the aura of death. The reincarnation monk ignited the white flame and suddenly rushed into the Devouring the Sky secret technique. Chu Fengmian did not expect this sudden action. The reincarnation monk dared to rush into the Devouring the Sky secret technique. The Devouring the Sky secret technique was so powerful that even the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu would die if he entered it. No matter how strong the reincarnation monk was, he was courting death. In order to save Han Yi, the reincarnation monk did not hesitate to enter the Devouring the Sky secret technique with his physical body, intending to save him. Chu Fengmian was surprised. He shouted coldly, and the target of the Devouring the Sky secret technique changed to the reincarnation monk. The devouring power immediately activated the Devouring Sky secret technique. Chu Fumian poured all his power into the Devouring Sky secret technique, and the devouring power of the Devouring Sky secret technique suddenly increased by dozens of times. The devouring power crazily devoured the spiritual power of the reincarnation monk. However, the white flame burning behind the reincarnation monk was actually resisting the devouring power of the Devouring Sky secret technique. This was the first time that the Devouring Sky secret technique, which could devour all the heavens, was helpless against a person. What kind of secret technique is this? Chu Fumian frowned. He looked at the white flame abruptly and saw a huge hexagonal wheel emerging from the white flame. The hexagonal wheel seemed to represent the life and death of all the heavens, and the reincarnation of life and death in Buddhism was vividly reflected in it. 6 paths of reincarnation. This is the most mysterious secret technique of the Samsara sect of Buddhism. Chu Fumian suddenly thought of an ancient rumor. It was said that among the countless branches of Buddhism, the Pure Land sect was the most prosperous, the Sumeru sect was the most powerful, and the Samsara sect was the most mysterious. These 3 sects were known as the 3 great sects of Buddhism, and they were also the core of Buddhism. The reincarnation of all the heavens was the foundation of the Samsara sect. It was said that the experts of the Samsara sect did not have to enter the reincarnation cycle, and they could be reborn and control the power of reincarnation. Chu Fumian used to be dismissive of reincarnation, but after he was reborn, he suddenly realized that reincarnation was not an illusory thing. Chu Fumian did not know much about the Samsara sect. He had tried to search for records about the Samsara sect, but there were only a few. The Samsara sect was already extremely mysterious in Buddhism, let alone in the outside world. It was said that the disciples of the Samsara sect were rarely born in 10,000 years. He did not expect the Zhuanlun monk to use the secret technique of the Samsara sect, and he was most likely a disciple of the Samsara sect. I have to capture this person. Chu Fumian's eyes were burning with passion. If the Samsara sect really had records of samsara and reincarnation, Chu Fumian might be able to uncover the secrets of his second life and his reincarnation. Dragon Emperor Seal. In an instant, Chu Fumian gathered the power of the blood in his body, and a huge seal was formed in the sky, and it came crashing down. However, just as the Dragon Emperor seal was about to land on the Zhuanlun monk, the 6 paths wheel in the white flames behind the Zhuanlun monk resisted the power of the Dragon Emperor seal. Within the 6 paths wheel, it was as if all the forces in the world could not cause any harm to the Zhuanlun monk. Carefree heaven and earth. Just as Chu Fumian struck again, the Zhuanlun monk suddenly turned into a ray of golden light and flew into the passage of the temple, disappearing without a trace. Before he left, the Zhuanlun monk took away a ball of blood essence of little Yao Wang Hanyi. Chapter 16:34. The Zhuanlun monk turned into a ray of golden light and rushed into the passage of the Buddhist temple. He passed through countless Buddhist restrictions and disappeared without a trace. Chu Fumian watched the Zhuanlun monk turn into a ray of golden light and did not chase after him. There were many Buddhist restrictions in the Buddhist temple. The Zhuanlun monk was not afraid of these restrictions. However, if Chu Fumian activated his spiritual energy to chase after him, he would definitely be bombarded by the Buddhist restrictions. The loss would outweigh the gain. It's a pity that the Zhuanlun monk has too many secrets. He even knows the secret skill of the Samsara sect. The 6 paths of reincarnation is indeed powerful. The 6 paths of reincarnation, the secret skill that the Zhuanlun monk had just activated, seemed to have surpassed the 6 paths of reincarnation. No attack could hit him. Even the heaven-devouring secret skill could not do anything to him, and he managed to escape in the end. However, this was within the Buddhist temple. The Zhuanlun monk was supported by a large number of Buddhist restrictions in the temple. It was sufficient for him to activate such a secret skill. If they were outside, the spiritual energy required to activate the 6 paths of reincarnation would be enough to suck the Zhuanlun monk dry. The price that one had to pay for such a powerful secret skill was incomparably huge. Just like Chu Fengyan, even if he had obtained the 9 mysterious immortal arts. However, Chu Fengyan could only use the first 4 moves. This was because the spiritual energy required to activate the last 3 moves was too much for Chu Fengyan to bear. If Chu Fengyan activated it forcefully, he would be digging his own grave. The 6 paths of reincarnation was definitely the Zhuanlun monk's trump card. It was a secret skill that could save his life. Once activated, he would have to pay a huge price. Otherwise, he would not have been forced to use it at the last moment. It's a pity that the little Yao Wang Han Yi did not die. Chu Fengyan shook his head. This was the most pitiful point for Chu Fengyan. In the Buddhist temple, even if Chu Fengyan did not activate the 6 paths of reincarnation, he would not be able to kill the Zhuanlun monk. Therefore, Chu Fengyan's goal from the very beginning was the little Yao Wang Han Yi, not this monk Zhuanlun. Chu Fengyan had broken the body of little Yao Wang Han Yi. More than 90% of his blood essence had been refined by the sky-devouring secret skill and transformed into Chu Fengyan's spiritual power. But just now, monk Zhuanlun had forcefully activated the secret technique of 6 paths of reincarnation and rushed into the secret technique of swallowing sky, and took away a small part of little Yao Wang Han Ye's blood essence. Therefore, even though it was less than 1/10 of it, it was enough for the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, like the little Yao Wang Han Yi, to reconstruct his physical body. However, having lost 90% of his blood essence, little Yao Wang Han Ye's strength was equivalent to losing 90%. Not to mention, this person's heart of invincibility had already been broken by Chu Fengyan. His tyrant martial Dao could no longer be improved. The next time he met Chu Fengyan, he would no longer be a threat. This Zhuanlun monk wanted to forcibly rescue little Yao Wang Han Yi because he wanted to find out all kinds of secrets about Chu Fengyan from little Yao Wang Han Yi. Unfortunately, little Yao Wang Han Yi knew nothing about Chu Fengyan. Therefore, Chu Fengyan was not worried. The next time I see this monk Zhuanlun, I must capture him. Chu Fengyan's eyes were extremely cold. This monk Zhuanlun might have the secret to explain Chu Fengyan's reincarnation. This time, monk Zhuanlun escaped. The next time Chu Fengyan saw him, he must capture him and force out the secret of Samsara sect. First, I will refine all of little Yao Wang Han Ye's blood essence and the countless treasures in Master Huang's empty ring. Although this time I have not obtained the treasures in this Buddhist temple, I have already gained a lot. More than 90% of little Yao Wang Han Ye's blood essence have been devoured by Chu Fengyan using the secret technique of swallowing sky and turned into pure spiritual power. Since Chu Fengyan killed Master Huang, Master Huang's empty ring had now fallen into Chu Fengyan's hands. There were many treasures in Master Huang's empty ring. Many of the treasures could be said to be of great use to the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. They could even be of great use to experts who were half a step away from the celestial realm. It seemed that Master Huang had also gained a lot in the 9 regions. Among them, Chu Fengyan saw a batch of ancient sacred elixirs in Master Huang's empty ring. There were dozens of them. Many of the ancient sacred elixirs exuded a rich medicinal fragrance. They were probably ancient sacred elixirs from the Middle Ages. These ancient sacred elixirs contained pure spiritual power, which was suitable for Chu Fengyan to cultivate. He could use the medicinal power in them to condense the Dragon Emperor's blood essence. Chu Fengyan sat on the ground and poured out all the ancient sacred elixirs. With the activation of Chu Fengyan's spiritual power, the secret technique of swallowing sky opened above Chu Fengyan's head. These ancient sacred elixirs, as well as the blood essence of Han Yi, were all sucked into the secret technique of swallowing sky. They were mercilessly refined by the power of the secret technique of swallowing sky. In an instant, Chu Fengyan felt a large amount of pure spiritual power pouring into Chu Fengyan's body. These spiritual powers were all devoured by the battle dragon bloodline in Chu Fengyan's body. Drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence had devoured enough power. They flashed with dazzling light and were immediately transformed into Dragon Emperor blood essence. Chu Fengmian's aura was also rising step by step. Chu Fengmian's aura became more dignified and noble. It was as if he was developing towards a real emperor. In some countries, the emperor was called the true dragon son of heaven. Now, Chu Fengmian's bloodline was advancing towards the real ancient dragon emperor, the emperor of all dragons. The aura was self-evident. Now, even if Chu Fengmian had restrained his aura, some martial artists could see the nobility of Chu Fengmian's bloodline when they looked at Chu Fengmian. It was extraordinary. Of course, Chu Fengmian's Dragon Emperor blood essence had only transformed a part of it. Once Chu Fengmian truly possessed the Dragon Emperor blood essence, Chu Fengmian would be able to step into the peak of the half-step celestial realm with the power of his bloodline. Once he stepped into the celestial realm, he would no longer be a Dragon Emperor, but a Dragon Emperor. The limit of the second level of the Battle Dragon skill was to possess the power of a Dragon Emperor. The second level of the Battle Dragon skill was to first transform all 129,600 drops of Battle Dragon blood essence into Dragon Emperor blood essence, and then break through to the Celestial Realm. Stepping into the Celestial Realm would allow the second level of the Battle Dragon skill to be perfected. 2,600 drops. Chu Fengmian slowly opened his eyes. After refining all the sacred elixirs in the empty rings of Han Yi and Master Huang. Now, the Dragon Emperor blood essence in Chu Fengmian's body had reached 2,600 drops. This was almost comparable to the power of 260,000 drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence. Now, Chu Fengmian's bloodline power alone was more powerful than 2 ancient battle dragons. The title number is wrong. I can't change it here. I can only leave it at that. Chapter 1635. Now, Chu Fengmian's bloodline power alone was comparable to the power of 2 dragons. And Chu Fengmian's strength was far more than that. His swordsmanship, his ice and fire divine physique, and countless fortuitous encounters almost made Chu Fengmian's strength far surpass the power of 2 dragons. Now, even among the 9 tribulations, Emperor Gu, young Master Phoenix, whose strength was comparable to 2 or 3 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, was killed by Chu Fengmian in one blow. Although it was a coincidence, it was enough to prove Chu Fengmian's strength. Among the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, Chu Fengmian was definitely worthy of being called a powerhouse. Especially now, Chu Fengmian was only in the realm of the 8 tribulations Emperor Gu. Once Chu Fengmian stepped into the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, it would be a leap for Chu Fengmian's strength. The gap between the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu and the 8 tribulations Emperor Gu was huge. Once Chu Fengmian stepped into the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, his strength would skyrocket by 10 times. However, it was easier said than done to break through to the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Chu Fengmian's aptitude was heaven-defying, and he had countless fortuitous encounters. Chu Fengmian wanted to break through to the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. The resources needed were also 10,000 times more. The last time Chu Fengmian tried to break through to the Emperor realm, he almost used up all the wealth he had accumulated. This time, even though Chu Fengmian was in the Crimson Continent, he had already obtained many opportunities and killed many 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, obtaining their empty rings. However, the resources Chu Fengmian needed to break through to the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu were far from enough. Moreover, Chu Fengmian's strength still hadn't reached the peak of the 8 tribulations Emperor Gu. If he hadn't reached the peak of the 8 tribulations Emperor Gu, how could he break through to the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu? The more heaven-defying a person was, the more difficult it would be to break through to a higher realm. Moreover, Chu Fengmian's heavenly tribulation was 10,000 times more powerful than a cultivator of the same realm. Chu Fengmian would only choose to break through to a higher realm when he was fully prepared and accumulated. In history, the more heaven-defying geniuses, the more likely they were to die. Chu Fengmian didn't want to follow in their footsteps. I can't break through to the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, but I can still improve my strength. Especially my physical strength, it's still far from the limit. Chu Fumian slowly stood up and looked at the ancient golden door. His real purpose of coming here was not to deal with Monk Zhuanlun and the others, but for the mausoleum of the golden-bodied Buddha. Now, Monk Zhuanlun and little Yao Wanghan Yi were forced away by Chu Fumian. Master Huang died in Chu Fumian's hands. The innumerable treasures in the mausoleum belonged to Chu Fumian alone. Rumble. Chu Fumian stood up and condensed spiritual energy in his palm. It transformed into a dragon claw and bombarded the ancient golden door. This ancient golden door had already been cracked by Chu Fumian. This time, Chu Fumian condensed his power and bombarded it with his attack. The ancient golden door immediately shattered and disintegrated in the air. The scene behind the ancient golden door was immediately revealed and reflected in Chu Fumian's eyes. Countless mystical glows were emitted. Before the ancient golden gate had been destroyed, the light of treasures had been trying to come out. Now that the gate had been destroyed, Chu Fumian could clearly see the true appearance of the light of treasures. The most dazzling treasure light was a fist-sized golden red stone. It was the most dazzling treasure light of this golden red stone. Good, it's the Tibetan gold essence. Sure enough, the Tibetan gold essence is hidden in the mausoleum of the golden-bodied Buddha. The fist-sized Tibetan gold essence is a perfect golden red. This perfect quality is the best of the Tibetan gold essence. It's close to an immortal item. Chu Fumian was overjoyed when he saw the golden red stone. He also recognized what this golden red stone was. Tibetan gold essence. It was an extraordinary item formed by the pure power of the earth. It was thousands of times purer than the power of the earth contained in the thick earth essence. Such a small fist-sized Tibetan gold essence contained even more power of the earth than a continent formed by the thick earth essence. Chu Fumian had once obtained a whole mountain range of earth, but compared with this Tibetan gold essence, it was not even 1% of it. From this point, it was enough to see how much power of the earth was contained in the Tibetan gold essence. Moreover, the Tibetan gold essence was precious not only because of the great power of the earth it contained, but also because of the essence of the power of the earth. Take the thick earth essence, for example. Although it was considered a treasure among the 9 tribulation ancient emperors, it wasn't a problem to purchase a large amount of it if one wanted to spend a lot of money. Chu Fumian could even buy the thick earth essence, which was stronger than the power of the earth contained in the Tibetan gold essence, with spirit stones. However, the Tibetan gold essence was a priceless treasure because the purity of the spiritual power in it could not be condensed by human power. The Tibetan gold essence could only be born in the chaos when heaven and earth were created. Even in some extraterritorial places that contain the power of the earth, the Tibetan gold essence could not be born. Moreover, the Tibetan gold essence in Chu Fumian's hand was the best of the Tibetan gold essence. This kind of top-grade hidden gold essence was a must-have for refining one's physical body to the extreme and breaking through to the immortal real body. It was something that countless experts half a step away from the celestial realm, and even those in the celestial realm yearn for. Once I refine this Tibetan gold essence, it will be enough to strengthen my body by at least 50%. Chu Fumian could not help but sigh as he felt the power contained in the Tibetan gold essence. However, he was not in a hurry to refine it. Instead, he continued to look at the stone chamber behind the ancient golden door. In the center of the stone chamber was a stone coffin, but Chu Fumian could see through the stone coffin and found that there was no one inside. There was no corpse, only an ancient monastic robe. This ancient monastic robe had been sealed by a peerless expert. Although it had been through countless years, the ancient Kasaya had not decayed. The Golden Body Buddha's remains are not among them. It would appear that the Golden Body Buddha has most likely died outside. Chu Fumian said when he saw this. There were records of the Golden Buddha in some ancient books, but there were only a few strokes. As for the fall of the Golden Buddha, there was no record. It was just in front of him. Since the skeleton of the golden-bodied Buddha was not in the tomb, it was most likely that the golden-bodied Buddha had died outside. Later, the Pure Land sect could not find the skeleton of the golden Buddha and only left such a cenotaph. Chapter 1636. Chu Fengmian couldn't help but feel a little disappointed that the skeleton of the golden Buddha wasn't there. After all, golden Buddha was the famous war Buddha of Buddhism, an invincible expert who had entered the celestial realm with his body. Perhaps golden Buddha was also an expert who had condensed an immortal real body. The half-step immortal real body in Chu Fengmian's body was because he had obtained the bronze heavenly demon skeleton. Chu Fengmian refined the heavenly demon skeleton with the help of the divine tree to condense the half-step immortal real body. The skeleton of a celestial being was almost as valuable as the Tibetan gold essence. If Chu Fengmian obtained it and refined it by the divine tree, it would be a great improvement for him. It was a pity that golden Buddha's skeleton was not in the tomb. Chu Fengmian looked at the other corners of the tomb again. In addition to the Tibetan gold essence, there were a few rays of treasure light. Most of them were natural oddities with body-refining effects. Although their effects were not as good as the Tibetan gold essence, they were still very rare treasures. Chu Fengmian did not hesitate. He gathered spiritual power in his palm and grasped at them. These natural oddities were all collected into Chu Fengmian's body. Suddenly, the sky-devouring secret skill was activated. It devoured all the spiritual power of these natural oddities. The spiritual power of these natural oddities entered Chu Fengmian's body one by one. They separated and poured into every crystal of flesh and blood. After fusing with these extraordinary items of the heavens, they all fused together. Chu Fengmian's flesh and blood crystals became more tenacious, and the connection between them became tighter. The six-winged centipede is not in this stone chamber. Chu Fengmian searched the entire stone chamber thoroughly. He didn't miss out on any of the precious treasures of the Tao of body tempering, nor did he miss out on any of them. However, he did not see the six-winged centipede. Previously on the Crimson Continent, when the Buddhist temple was opened, countless rays of treasure light appeared. Chu Fengmian valued two natural oddities the most. One was the Tibetan gold essence, which was now in Chu Fengmian's hands. The other was the six-winged centipede. Both of them were precious treasures of the Tao of body refining. According to ancient records, if one wanted to push their fleshly body to the limit, they would need an eternal true body. The assistance of these two body refinement techniques was indispensable. Furthermore, the two treasures complemented each other. The hidden gold essence contained the pure power of the earth. Therefore, it was sufficient to refine one's physical body. However, with such a pure and enormous power, if one was not careful, one could be devoured by the power of the earth. At that time, if his physical body was petrified, he would lose his physical body at the very least. In the worst-case scenario, he might die on the spot. In order to refine the hidden gold essence, the six-winged centipede had to be used as a neutralizer. Only by refining the two at the same time could he unleash the full potential of these two treasures. The concealed gold essence was in the golden-bodied Buddha's tomb, but the six-winged centipede wasn't there. Chu Fengmian felt that it was a pity. However, there were more than tens of millions of Buddhist powerhouses buried in this burial ground. It was extremely normal for the six-winged centipede to be buried in the tombs of other Buddhist experts. Chu Fengmian glanced at the hidden gold essence in his palm and put it into the empty ring. When Chu Fengmian found the six-winged centipede, he would refine these two treasures at the same time. Let's go. The stone chamber had been emptied, so there was no need for Chu Fengmian to stay here any longer. There were treasures everywhere in this burial ground. The more treasures Chu Fengmian collected, the more it would be able to enhance his strength. Chu Fengmian injected a stream of spiritual energy into the 1,000 thoughts Buddhist beads on his wrist. A stream of pure Buddhist power descended on Chu Fengmian's back and turned into a ray of Buddhist light. Then, Chu Fengmian moved his body and flew out of the temple. Without monk Zhuan Luan deliberately activating the Buddhist restrictions in the temple, The power of the 1,000 thoughts Buddhist beads alone was enough to deceive everyone. The moment the Buddhist restrictions on the way came into contact with a Buddhist light on Chu Fengmian's back, their power was weakened by 10 times. Chu Fengmian rampaged through countless Buddhist restrictions and left the temple all of a sudden. He turned into a ray of light and flew directly into the distance. Not long after Chu Fengmian left the temple, two figures appeared from the edge of the temple. Monk Xuanlun, why didn't you activate the Buddhist restrictions in the temple to deal with this kid? These two figures were Monk Xuanlun and Young Yao Wang Hanyi. Now, Young Yao Wang Hanyi's aura was extremely weak. Obviously, he had lost a lot of essence and blood. His strength was seriously damaged. Watching Chu Fengmian leave the temple so easily, Young Yao Wang Hanyi's eyes were extremely cold. In particular, he could also see that Chu Fengmian's aura was now more tyrannical than before. Obviously, the treasures in the mausoleum of the Golden Buddha had fallen into Chu Fengmian's hands, and now all of them had been turned into Chu Fengmian's power. Young Yao Wang Han Yi came to invite Chu Fengmian to explore the treasures of the Golden Buddha together. Originally, he wanted to use Chu Fengmian as cannon fodder and let him reap the benefits. But now, he had led the wolf into the house. Young Master Huang had fallen, and he had almost died in Chu Fengmian's hands. As for the treasures in the mausoleum of the Golden Buddha, they were all obtained by Chu Fengmian. All of this made Young Yao Wang Han Yi close to madness. No, it's just this person's strength. Even if I activate the restrictions in the temple, it will only bring him a little trouble at most. It won't hurt him, and it will be easy to alert the enemy. Hearing Young Yao Wang Hanya's question, Monk Xuanlun shook his head. Although the Buddhist restrictions in the temple were powerful, once he activated them, they could only delay Chu Fengmian's time at most. If he wanted to really hurt or even kill Chu Fengmian, these restrictions alone were far from enough. Then what should we do? Once this person's strength goes further, you and I will die in his hands. Young Yao Wang Han Yi said with a cold snort. This kid's character is incomparably ruthless. He has always dealt with his enemies by cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. Are we just going to sit and wait for death and watch this kid's strength grow little by little? Don't worry, this is the Pure Land Buddhist Temple, the territory of our Pure Land sect. There are plenty of opportunities. Monk Xuanlun's face was calm, but his eyes were also looking at Chu Fengmian with killing intent. Let's go. I know that there are several hidden places of our Buddhist experts. Some of the treasures can help you restore your strength. Chapter 16:37. In this Tibetan burial ground, the real huge Tibetan burial ground has yet to open. Now is not the time to attack. When it opens, we will deal with that kid. After finishing his words, Monk Xuanlun's figure flashed, and he flew toward a plane. Little Yao Wang Hanyi took a deep look at Chu Fengmian's escaping light and followed after Monk Xuanlun. The real huge Tibetan burial ground? Could it be the Tibetan burial ground of the master of this Buddhist temple, the Buddha of Pure Land? Chu Fengmian's figure flew in the Tibetan burial ground. Chu Fengmian clearly heard the conversation between Little Yao Wang Hanyi and Monk Xuanlun just now. With the improvement of his strength, Chu Fengmian's current range of spiritual awareness had reached a radius of 20 miles. In addition to the Buddhist power of the Buddhist prayer beads, he could resist the suppression of the Buddhist restriction. His spiritual consciousness could explore a radius of 50 miles. Chu Fengmian overheard the conversation between the two. Even as early as the moment Chu Fengmian left the Buddhist temple, Chu Fengmian sensed the whereabouts of the two. However, Chu Fengmian did not attack. Monk Xuanlun had many trump cards, and he also knew the secret skill of the Samsara sect, the 6 paths of reincarnation. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, it would not be easy to capture him alive. Now that countless treasures had opened in the Tibetan burial ground, time was tight. Chu Fengmian was not willing to spend a lot of time to deal with Monk Xuanlun. It was better to take advantage of this opportunity to plunder more treasures to improve his strength. As long as Chu Fengmian could step into the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, Chu Fengmian was confident that he could capture Monk Xuanlun alive no matter what kind of secret skills he had. Chu Fengmian flew in the Tibetan burial ground. At a glance, he saw many treasure lights shooting up into the sky from the Tibetan burial ground. Each of these treasure lights represented the opening of a tomb of a Buddhist expert in the Tibetan burial ground. Chu Fengmian took a rough glance and saw at least dozens of treasure lights, and this was only a part of the Tibetan burial ground. More and more warriors, demon immortals, and demons entered the Tibetan burial ground. There were battles for treasures from time to time. Yin Hanshi and the others had also left to search for treasures. With so many treasures, everyone was going crazy. The warriors and Fey immortals of the various factions were engaged in a chaotic battle. However, Chu Fengmian suddenly realized that there wasn't a single disciple of the Pure Land Starfield. When he was outside, Chu Fengmian saw at least 100 Buddhist disciples from the Pure Land Starfield. It should be an extremely powerful force in the Hidden Land. However, Chu Fengmian did not see a single disciple of the Pure Land Starfield. These Pure Land Starfield disciples seemed to be hiding on purpose, waiting for an opportunity. Seems like these Pure Land Starfield disciples know a lot about the Pure Land Buddhist Temple. Seems like the Pure Land sect came prepared this time. We have to be on our guard. Chu Fengmian suddenly recalled the words of monk Xuanlin and the fact that he could control the Buddhist restriction in the mausoleum of the golden-bodied Buddha. The strength of the Xuanlin monk wasn't the biggest threat yet. However, once he could control these Buddhist seals, they would be the biggest threat to Lin Fan. Within the hidden ground, there were countless of Buddhist seals within the tombs. If these seals were to be used by the reincarnation monk, things would be extremely troublesome for Lin Fan. I have to be careful, Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. In the golden-bodied Buddha's mausoleum, Monk Xuanlin had used the Buddhist restriction in the mausoleum to trick Chu Fengmian. Although Chu Fengmian had turned danger into safety, he had to be more careful when exploring other Buddhist burial grounds in the future due to this incident. Just as Chu Fengmian was flying all the way in the Tibetan burial ground, looking for the mausoleum that was about to open. That is, Chu Fengmian's figure suddenly stopped in the air and looked ahead. About 40 miles ahead, several conveyance lights suddenly flew over. The power contained in these conveyance lights was extremely strong. There were at least 3 of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Although the remaining 2 people were not at the level of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, their strength was close to that of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. With such strength, he could be considered as one of the most tyrannical forces in the hidden ground. But what attracted Chu Fengmian's attention was the moment when the conveyance light flew over. In Chu Fengmian's body, the power of the human emperor jar suddenly awakened. A feeling of longing filled Chu Fengmian's mind. The power of the human emperor jar belongs to Yin Jun of the Yin family. Chu Fengmian suddenly probed with his spiritual consciousness. Among the 5 people, there was a young man dressed in luxurious clothes with an arrogant face. He was Yin Jun of the Yin family. The strength of this person was much stronger than the last time Chu Fengmian saw him. His strength was comparable to that of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. It seemed that this person had also gained a lot in this Tibetan burial ground. Beside him stood another young man. This person's aura was not weaker than Yin Jun's, and his status was not lower than Yin Jun's. He was on an equal footing with Yin Jun. Behind the 2 of them were 3 old men. All of them were at the level of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Their strength was extremely strong. The strength of this group was almost equivalent to 5 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. In this Tibetan burial ground, they were extremely strong. They flew all the way and slowly landed on a plane. They were going to snatch the treasures of the mausoleum that was opened on the plane. The few warriors who opened the mausoleum were killed by them in a few moves. Immediately, the treasures fell into their hands. There are really countless treasures in this Tibetan burial ground. If this continues, I will have a chance to become Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations. Yin Jun of the Yin family collected the treasures in this Tibetan burial ground. He immediately took out the divine elixir pills and swallowed them. His aura became stronger as he exclaimed, The treasures in every mausoleum here are several times more than the Tibetan burial ground opened in our Yen Luo star field. Moreover, it is not dangerous. The 9 regions is really a land of treasures. There are treasures everywhere. This is nothing. This used to be the Tibetan burial ground of the Pure Land sect. The Pure Land sect used to be a sect that dominated the 9 regions. There were countless experts born in it. Just the number of Buddhist sovereigns above the celestial realm is unknown. The mausoleum that is open now is only a part of it. If we can get some of the treasures of the powerful Buddhist sovereigns, it will be of great benefit to us. Another young man standing beside Yen Jun, Mu Jio from the Mu family, said aloud. Chapter 1638. That's right. According to the records, the 9 domains were once filled with experts, and there were countless people above the celestial realm. At that time, our Yen Luo starfield, the Daluotian starfield, the Pure Earth starfield, and the dozens of starfields near the 9 domains were all dominated by the 9 domains. During that era, our Yen Luo starfield respected the 9 domains. One of the 9 tribulations, Emperor Gu, an elder of the Yin clan, who was standing behind Yen Jun, couldn't help but speak. It's a pity that the 9 domains are now in decline. They're nothing compared to the Daluotian starfield. However, the former glory of the 9 domains left behind a large number of treasures. It's a great opportunity to obtain these treasures. Humph! The natives of the 9 domains are not qualified to obtain these treasures. It's a waste for these treasures to fall into their hands. Yen Jun snorted coldly. His eyes were full of greed as he looked at the countless treasures that appeared in the treasury. If it weren't for the fact that our Yen Luo starfield received the news too late, we would have been able to obtain the countless treasures in the 9 domains. In the future, our Yen Luo starfield would surpass countless starfields and become one of the new sacred domains. By the way, Brother Yin, do you have any news about the fragments of the extreme immortal weapon? Mu Jio, who was in the Mu clan, suddenly asked. Even if it's just a fragment of an extreme immortal weapon, the power it contains is incomparably terrifying. If Brother Yin can obtain a fragment, it's enough to threaten a half-step celestial realm expert. Previously, outside the Pure Land Buddhist temple, Chu Fengmian had used the Emperor Jar to force the young emperor and the 5-element Saber Saint to retreat. It had also caused the 2 of them to fight over the Emperor Jar. In the end, it had given Chu Fengmian an opportunity to escape into the Pure Land Buddhist temple. Mu Jio had seen all of this. The power of the Emperor Jar was still fresh in his memory. Chu Fengmian was only in the realm of the 8 tribulations Emperor Gu. No matter how strong he was just an ant in front of a half-step celestial realm expert. However, using the Emperor Jar was enough to force the young emperor, who was infinitely close to the celestial realm, to retreat. It was enough to prove the power of the Emperor Jar. He could also see that the jar of the emperor in Chu Fengmian's hand was only a fragment. The other part of the Emperor Jar had fallen into the hands of Yen Jun of the Yin family. Now that the Mu family and the Yin family had joined forces, it was no longer a secret that Yen Jun possessed a fragment of the Emperor Jar. Not yet. However, that extreme Tao immortal armament fragment is most definitely in this temple. Merely, it has yet to appear. It might be hidden in some treasures. Hearing Mu Jio's words, Yen Jun closed his eyes. He seemed to be activating his spiritual consciousness to investigate everything around him. However, I have a fragment of it. Once that extreme Tao celestial weapon appears, I could be the first to fight for it. Suddenly, Yen Jun's eyes flickered, revealing a murderous intent. It's a pity that I didn't manage to kill Chu Fengmian earlier. Otherwise, it would have been much easier for me to search for the others after obtaining the fragment of the extreme immortal weapon. In terms of strength alone, the Emperor Jar in Chu Fengmian's hand was definitely much more powerful than the fragment in his hand. After all, Yen Jun wasn't confident that he could activate the power of the fragment of the Emperor Jar to force the young emperor to retreat. It's a pity that this person most likely died in the hands of a young emperor or the 5-element Saber Saint, being targeted by 2 half-step celestial realm experts. No matter how many tricks this brat has up his sleeve, he'll definitely die. Mujio of the Mu family said coldly. However, just as this person's voice sounded, a sword glow suddenly appeared in the sky. Soon after, a figure swooped down. The sword light was aimed at Mujio's chest. It was a sudden attack. The sword light burst out almost soundlessly. The person who attacked was Chu Fengyan. Previously, Yin Jun had led the people of the Yin family to launch a sneak attack on Chu Fengyan. This time, seeing Yin Jun and the others, Chu Fengyan didn't hold back and suddenly attacked. Moreover, Yin Jun had the fragment of the Emperor Jar that Chu Fengyan coveted. It was reasonable that Chu Fengyan wouldn't let them go. Originally, Chu Fengyan was going to kill Yin Jun first, but Mujio dared to say that Chu Fengyan would definitely die. Chu Fengyan had to teach him a lesson now. Chu Fengyan didn't hold back and activated his sword will to the extreme. Instead of calling it a sneak attack, it was better to call it a sudden attack. It turned into a 1,000-foot-long sword aura that enveloped down. Young Lord, watch out. Before Mujio could react to the sudden attack of the sword light, an old man behind him suddenly roared and looked up at the sky. A gigantic 8 trigrams shield appeared in his hand, and he raised it up abruptly. Chu Fengyan's sword light bombarded the 8 trigram shield, but it only forced the old man back. You have some tricks up your sleeve. Chu Fengyan's eyes showed some surprise when he saw that the old man blocked his sword light. If it had been an ordinary Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations, he wouldn't have been unable to react to the sudden attack of the sword, but it wouldn't have been easy for him to block it in a hurry. However, this old man of the Mu clan had blocked Chu Fengyan's sword light. However, Chu Fengyan could also see that the old man was able to block Chu Fengyan's sword light, not because of his strength, but because of the 8 trigrams shield in his hand. The 8 trigram shield contained the power of the 8 trigrams. It was extremely mysterious and complemented each other. Chu Fengyan's sword light bombarded the shield, and at least 90% of its power had been neutralized. The remaining 10% of its power could only force the old man of the Mu clan to retreat, but it couldn't hurt him at all. Who is it? Mujio only reacted at this time and looked in the direction of Chu Fengyan with a furious expression. If it wasn't for the old man behind him who reacted in time, he would have died under the sword's edge. This sudden attack was impossible to guard against. Yin Jun and the other 2 Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations of the Yin clan also looked over. When they saw Chu Fengyan's figure, their faces suddenly changed. Chu Fengyan, you still dare to show up? I was just looking for you to kill you, and now you've delivered yourself to me. Elders, let's kill this man together. Yin Jun saw Chu Fengyan's figure and laughed loudly. He immediately gathered his spiritual power and attacked Chu Fengyan with his palm. Yin Jun had been looking for Chu Fengyan and snatching the Emperor Jar since he came to this Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. Now that Chu Fengyan appeared, he attacked without hesitation. Chapter 1639. Chu Fengyan, you still dare to appear? I was just looking for you to kill you, and now you've delivered yourself to my doorstep. Elders, let's kill this man together. Yin Jun saw Chu Fengyan's figure and laughed. He immediately gathered his spiritual power and attacked Chu Fengyan with his palm. Yin Jun had been looking for Chu Fengyan to snatch the Emperor Jar since he came to the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. Now that Chu Fengyan had appeared, he attacked without hesitation. The 2 Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations of the Yin family behind him also attacked together. The 2 elders of the Yin family attacked together. The spiritual power of the 2 of them was very similar, and it seemed that they had cultivated the same kind of cultivation technique. They gathered their spiritual power and attacked together. It was a kind of joint attack technique. It was said that only brothers who were of the same mind could cultivate this technique. It was difficult to cultivate. These 2 elders of the Yin family had cultivated the art of planning to the point where they were close to mastering it. The 2 of them attacked together and gathered their spiritual power as if they were martial artists. However, this martial artist had the power of 2 Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations. This was much more tyrannical than the power of 2 Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations. Even if there were 3 or even 4 Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations attacking together, they might not be a match for the two elders of the Yin family. The technique of joint attack is really something. Chu Fengmian's eyes showed some seriousness. The power of the Yin Luo star field was not inferior to that of the Daluo star field, and the Yin family was one of the four major families of the Yin Luo star field. They must have some foundation. Just this technique of joint attack alone was very powerful. He was afraid that people like Little Yao Wang Han Yi and Master Huang would come. It would be very troublesome to encounter the two elders of the Yin family. With such strength, it was no wonder that Yin Jun did not want to escape when he saw Chu Fengmian. Instead, he wanted to kill Chu Fengmian and snatch the fragment of the Emperor Jar. However, Chu Fengmian was even able to fight against young Master Phoenix, Little Yao Wang Han Yi, and Monk Xuanlun. These three invincible experts were besieging Chu Fengmian, not to mention the two elders of the Yin family. One sword breaks the firmament. The ancestral Dragon Supreme sword in Chu Fengmian's hand was condensed with spiritual energy. It contained a sharp blade and instantly slashed down. It collided with the combined attack of the two elders of the Yin family. The power of Chu Fengmian's sword was extremely strong. The combined technique of the two elders of the Yin family was directly destroyed. Not good. Don't hold back anymore. Attack. Use your killer moves. The two elders of the Yin family didn't expect Chu Fengmian's strength to be this strong. The most powerful joint attack of the Yin family had been broken so easily by Chu Fengmian. The two of them had originally thought that they wouldn't need to waste too many tricks to deal with a mere 8 tribulations Emperor Gu. But to their surprise, the ant-like Chu Fengmian was actually a true dragon. Martial world. The two elders of the Yin family suddenly roared at the same time. With this roar, the spiritual energy in their bodies burst out. They had brought out their absolute trump cards. Behind the two of them, illusory figures began to condense. Each of these illusory figures had a strong martial arts power. They were all experts of the Yin clan. The Yin family was also a well-known family in the Yin Luo starfield. After 10,000 years, it had given birth to countless experts. Thus, when the two elders of the Yin family took action, they condensed the illusory figures of countless experts of the Yin family and added them to their bodies. In an instant, the martial energy of the two elders was raised to the extreme. The power of their bodies also increased by countless times. Useless struggle. Chu Fengmian sneered, looking at the rising power of the two elders of the Yin family. The corner of his mouth revealed a cold smile. However, the sword intent behind Chu Fengmian was also condensing. It soared into the sky and turned into a sword light, condensing on the blade of Chu Fengmian's sword. Die, both of you! Rumble. Wherever the sword light passed, everything turned into nothingness. The most powerful sword intent in the world burst out at this moment. Chu Fengmian's sword light bombarded. The joint attack of the two elders of the Chun family and the shadows of the experts of the Yin family condensed behind them were all destroyed. At this moment, all of them were defeated. The spiritual energy was extremely violent. The rebounding force smashed onto the bodies of the two Chun clan elders. The two of them spat out a large mouthful of blood essence. The impact caused them to spit out blood directly. How can this person be so terrifying? The two elders retreated continuously. They wanted to avoid Chu Fengmian's sword, but it was too late. Chu Fengmian's body suddenly moved. He rushed to the front of the two elders of the Yin family in a single step, each holding a sword. The bodies of the two elders of the Yin family immediately turned into a cloud of blood mist. They were killed on the spot. Chu Fengmian did not let go of their blood essence. He activated the sky-devouring secret skill. The realm of the two Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations was immediately devoured by the sky-devouring secret skill. It operated and turned into pure spiritual energy, pouring into Chu Fengmian's body. The two elders of the Chun family, Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations, were suddenly killed by Chu Fengmian in a single move. Even when the two of them used all their trump cards, it did not change the result. This made Yin Jun and the two elders of the Mu family unable to believe what they had seen for a moment. The joint attack of the Yin family was famous in the Yin Luo star field. Even in the Daluo star field and the Pure Land star field, the joint attack of the Yin family was an existence that countless experts feared. However, the two elders of the Yin family did not even struggle in the hands of Chu Fengyan. They were killed by Chu Fengyan in a single move. You want to kill me with just a few of you? How dare you scheme against me? After Chu Fengyan killed the two elders of the Yin family, he immediately looked at Yin Jun and Mu Jiao. The two of them had always wanted to scheme against Chu Fengyan. They wanted to deal with Chu Fengyan and seize the fragment of the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengyan was well aware of this. This time, Chu Fengyan did not show any mercy when he attacked. He wanted to kill all of them at once and not give them a chance to cause trouble for Chu Fengyan again. How was it possible? The two elders of the Yin family died, just like that? Yin Jun had been watching the two elders of the Yin family being killed by Chu Fengyan and their blood essence being devoured by Chu Fengyan. He was stunned for a moment and could not believe what had happened. The last time he fought with Chu Fengyan, the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu did not exist at that time. Chapter 1640. This time, Yin Jun came to the 9 regions to collect the treasure. The 2 Yin clan elders beside him could be considered as the strongest among the Yin clan elders. Many 9 Tribulation ancient emperors had died under the combined attack of the two. Even in Yin Jun's wildest dreams, he did not expect Chu Fengyan's growth to be so terrifying in just a few days. The 2 Mu clan elders beside him also stared at Chu Fengyan with pale faces. They originally thought that Chu Fengyan was a fat piece of meat sent to their doorstep, so they were willing to join forces with Yin Jun to deal with Chu Fengyan. But now, Chu Fengyan was not a fat piece of meat. He was a real dragon, a lion. They were the fat pieces of meat that were at his mercy. Young lord, I'll delay this person. You escape and let the experts of our Mu clan come and kill this person. The Mu clan elder looked at Chu Fengyan with tenacity in his eyes. He suddenly attacked Chu Fengyan with a palm strike. Mu Jiao of the Mu clan did not hesitate. He hurriedly turned his head and turned into a ray of light to escape into the distance. Trying to escape? You think an old man like you can stop me? Chu Fengyan sneered when he saw the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu of the Mu clan attack. He suddenly put away his sword and attacked the Mu clan elder with his bare hands. Second move of the primogenitor. Rumble. As Chu Fengyan's bloodline became purer and closer to that of primogenitor Tianlong, the power of the 9 moves of the primogenitor also became more terrifying. The 9 moves of the primogenitor were also activated by the power of the bloodline. However, the power of the 9 moves of the primogenitor was also more powerful because of the noble bloodline of the Dragon Clan. Even though it was the second move of the 9 moves of the primogenitor, it was completely different from the one Chu Fengyan used previously. As the move was launched, the spiritual energy in the sky condensed and the dragons danced. It was as if the world was full of dragons, as if they had returned to the era when dragons ruled the world. And Chu Fengyan was the emperor of the dragons, the master of the dragons. The power of the dragons condensed in Chu Fengyan's palm and launched a move. The power of the Mu clan elder's palm was immediately broken. At the same time, the power of the dragons bombarded the Mu clan elder. 8 trigrams God bless. When the old man saw the power of the dragons descending, he hurriedly raised the 8 trigrams shield in his hand and injected all his spiritual power into it. Countless runes appeared on the 8 trigram shield, forming an 8 trigrams formation that protected his body. You want to block my power with a mere spiritual weapon? Break! Chu Fengyan shouted coldly. Dragons roared and bombarded the 8 trigrams formation with the power of dragons. Crack! The 8 trigrams formation was blasted apart by the power of the dragons. Even the 8 trigram shield was sent flying in an instant. Then Chu Fengyan reached out with his claw, and the 8 trigrams shield fell into his palm. The 8 trigram shield was able to withstand Chu Fengyan's sword. It was also a rare treasure. Moreover, Chu Fengyan could see that the old man from the Mu family was unable to display the full power of the 8 trigram shield. Of course, Chu Fengyan would not let go of such a treasure. He held the 8 trigrams shield in his palm, and injected a surge of spiritual power into it. Suddenly, the mark that originally belonged to the old man from the Mu family was erased from the 8 trigram shield and became Chu Fengmian's mark. Puff! After losing the 8 trigram shield, the old man from the Mu family could not withstand the bombardment of the power of the dragons. His body was immediately crushed. His blood essence was also absorbed by Chu Fengmian into the sky-devouring secret technique. At the same time, on the other side, Mu Jiao from the Mu family activated his escape light and was about to escape from the plane. He just turned his head and happened to see the scene where Chu Fengmian killed the old man from the Mu family in one move. It made him tremble with fear. This man is definitely a monster. In our Yin Luo starfield, even the most monstrous geniuses are not as terrifying as this man. I wonder how many opportunities he has. My Mu family's experts are about to arrive at the 9 regions. If I can kill him and get these opportunities, no one in the Yin Luo starfield can compete with me. Mu Jiao's eyes were filled with fear, but there was a hint of greed and excitement. As long as he could escape, he could find the experts of the Mu family to besiege Chu Fengmian. Once he killed Chu Fengmian, all of Chu Fengmian's opportunities would belong to him. Tianlong change. Seal. Just as Mu Jiao was about to escape from the plane, suddenly, a long roar resounded in the plane. Mu Jiao's figure suddenly stopped in the air. His escape light gradually disappeared in the air. The surrounding spatial energy condensed to the extreme and turned into layers of cages, locking him in. No matter how Mu Jiao activated his escape light, he could not take another step forward. You still want to find the experts of your family to deal with me? Unfortunately, you won't have the chance today. Get back here. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian's voice sounded from behind Mu Jiao. This voice was like the voice of the Grim Reaper. At the same time, an invisible hand shrouded Mu Jiao's body and tried to pull him back. Golden cicada, shell shedding. Mu Jiao erupted all the spiritual energy in his body. A golden light appeared from his body. This golden light seemed to want to break free from the Tianlong change's seal and escape to the sky. Oomph! A cold snort was heard. The formless hand abruptly clenched its fists and grabbed Mu Jiao. Its fingers pierced into the golden light around Mu Jiao and crushed it. Boom! Mu Jiao's body was also caught in the palm of the invisible hand. In the next moment, he was pulled back to the plane and knelt in front of Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian, you can't kill me. You should know that there are many experts in my Mu family. My Mu family is on the same level as the Sacred Dragon's secret realm. You are just a disciple of the Daluo Starfield's Sacred Dragon's secret realm. I am the young master of the Mu family. If you dare to kill me, the Sacred Dragon's secret realm won't be able to protect you. Mu Jiao hurriedly shouted when he saw the killing intent in Chu Fengmian's eyes. Is that so, Mu family? I'd like to see who from the Mu family dares to avenge you. I'll kill whoever comes. It just so happens that I need Emperor Gu's blood essence to consolidate my realm. Today, Chu Fengmian had already killed one of the Mu family's 9 tribulations, Emperor Gu. Even if he let Mu Jiao go, the Mu family would not let Chu Fengmian go. It was better to kill them all. Moreover, Mu Jiao wanted to ask the experts of the Mu family to deal with Chu Fengmian. He was courting death. Die! Chu Fengmian clapped his hand, and Mu Jiao's body was immediately crushed. Chapter 1641. When Yin Jun saw this scene, he was frightened out of his wits. Mu Jiao was the young master of the Mu family. In terms of status, he was nobler than him. Although the Yin family was stronger than the Mu family in the Daluo Starfield, Yin Jun was not the young master of the Mu family. However, Yin Jun was not the Yin clan's young master. Instead, he was only a genius disciple of the Yin clan. Mu Jiao, on the other hand, was the Mu clan's young master. Killing Mu Jiao almost meant that he had to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Mu family. This was something that even the 5-element Saber Saint, an invincible expert who was half a step into the celestial being realm, had to think twice about it. But now, Chu Fengmian killed him without hesitation. It seemed that Chu Fengmian did not take Mu Jiao's threat seriously at all. After killing Mu Jiao, Chu Fengmian's eyes fell on Yin Jun. The moment Chu Fengmian's gaze landed on Yin Jun, he couldn't help but shudder and tremble. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Yin Jun looked at Chu Fengmian with a pale face and a trembling voice. Chu Fengmian, let me go. I know you are here for the extreme path immortal weapon fragment. As long as you are willing to let me go, I am willing to give you the extreme path immortal weapon fragment. Yin Jun said hurriedly, fearing that Chu Fengmian would kill him. Moreover, I can help you hide the fact that you killed Mu Jiao. The Mu family's power is not something you can contend with. If you let me go, I will help you hide it. The Mu family will not be able to find you. Oh, Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered as he listened to Yin Jun's words. He seemed to be thinking about it. Chu Fengmian looked at Yin Jun and thought for a moment. He said coldly, hand over the extreme path immortal weapon fragment first. Promise me that you will let me go first. Yin Jun said hurriedly when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. You are not qualified to negotiate with me. Hand over the extreme path immortal weapon fragment, or I will kill you now. Chu Fengmian's eyes were cold as he looked at Yin Jun with killing intent. All right, I will give it to you now. Yin Jun's face turned even paler when he saw this gaze. His eyes were filled with fear as he quickly opened the empty ring. An ancient tile flew out from the spatial ring. Chu Fengmian looked over and could tell at a glance that this ancient tile was a fragment of the Renhuang jar. However, Yin Jun's luck was not as good as Chu Fengmian's. Chu Fengmian already had 5 fragments of the Renhuang jar. However, Yin Jun only had 1 fragment in his hands. However, with each additional fragment of the Emperor jar, the power of the Emperor jar would increase tenfold. With the piece in Yin Jun's hands, Chu Fengmian would have a lot more confidence when fighting against young Emperor and 5-element Saber Saint, who were half a step away from the celestial realm. Hurry up, Chu Fengmian said coldly when he saw Yin Jun's hesitation. All right. Although Yin Jun's eyes were filled with reluctance, he still threw out the fragment of the Emperor jar. With a wave of Chu Fengmian's hand, the fragment fell into his palm. The familiar spiritual power contained in it proved that the broken tile in front of him was one of the fragments of the Emperor jar. The moment he saw the fragment of the Emperor jar fall into Chu Fengmian's palm, Yin Jun's eyes suddenly turned cold. The divine power of the human emperor. Boom! The fragment of the Emperor jar in Chu Fengmian's palm shook violently, and an incomparably tyrannical power erupted from it. Chu Fengmian, I didn't have a chance to kill you, but you're too greedy. How dare you take the fragment of the Emperor jar? I've already refined a fragment of the Emperor jar. Have a taste of the power of the Emperor jar. Yin Jun's face was incomparably ferocious. He had just pretended to be terrified because he was waiting for this scene. The moment Chu Fengmian took the fragment of the Emperor's jar, the power that he had left behind in the fragment suddenly erupted. The fragment of the Emperor jar had been refined by Yin Jun, and it erupted with power under his control. At such a close distance, Emperor Gu of the 9 Tribulations would undoubtedly die if he were to bear the power of the fragment of the Emperor jar. With this move, Yin Jun had schemed against who knew how many powerhouses. Although the fragment of the Emperor jar was a supreme treasure, it was now refined by Yin Jun. If it fell into the hands of others, it would be a bomb. Billowing spiritual power erupted from the fragment of the Emperor jar. The power of the ancient human emperor descended and swept through everything in the surroundings. Quell the unrest. Chu Fengmian's face was extremely calm. When he saw the power erupting from the fragment of the Emperor jar, he shouted coldly. An ancient jar appeared in his palm. Although the jar was broken, the power it contained was much more tyrannical than the fragment of the Emperor jar. Yin Jun only had 1 fragment of the Emperor jar in his hand. However, Chu Fengmian had a total of 5 fragments of the Emperor jar. When the ancient jar appeared, a wave of spiritual power surged out. In Chu Fengmian's palm, the spiritual power that erupted from the fragment of the Emperor jar suddenly stagnated. The condensed power of the human emperor also began to shatter layer by layer and began to collapse. Yin Jun, you want to trick me too? Unfortunately, you only have 1 fragment. No matter how many you refine, you can't resist my power. Chu Fengmian sneered and injected a wave of spiritual power into the emperor jar. Immediately, the jar in Chu Fengmian's palm erupted with the power of the human emperor. The power of the human emperor enveloped the fragment of the emperor jar and immediately suppressed the power of the fragment. At the same time, Chu Fengmian also made a move. A wave of spiritual power was injected into the fragment of the emperor jar to erase the mark left by Yin Jun. How is this possible? How can you have so many fragments? Yin Jun shouted in disbelief when he saw that Chu Fengmian's emperor jar contained a total of 5 fragments. It was already a great opportunity for him to obtain such a fragment. In the entire Yin Luo starfield, he was the only one who could possess it. Although Yin Jun knew that Chu Fengmian should have more than 1 fragment of the emperor jar, he guessed that Chu Fengmian only had about 2, or even 3 at most. He never imagined that Chu Fengmian had already monopolized 5 of the 9 fragments of the emperor jar. The power of the 5 fragments of the emperor jar was activated at the same time. Although Yin Jun had refined the fragment of the emperor jar countless times, its power was firmly suppressed. His plan to use the fragment of the emperor jar to sneak up on Chu Fengmian was completely destroyed. Chapter 1642. According to Yin Jun's original plan, even if the emperor jar fragment couldn't kill Chu Fengmian, it could still give him a chance to escape. But now, not only did the power of the emperor jar fragment not explode, but it was also suppressed by Chu Fengmian. Boom! The mark left by Yin Jun in the emperor jar fragment was constantly being erased by Chu Fengmian's spiritual power. Once the mark left by Yin Jun was completely erased, the emperor jar fragment would also become an ownerless object. Reversal of heaven and earth. Reshape heaven and earth. Yin Jun suddenly spat out a large mouthful of essence blood, which began to burn fiercely. He condensed a large amount of spiritual power from the essence blood and hit the emperor jar. The emperor jar fragment was Yin Jun's last trump card. He didn't hesitate to burn his essence blood to protect the emperor jar fragment and prevent Chu Fengmian from refining it. With the injection of spiritual power, the emperor jar fragment, which had been firmly suppressed, began to shake violently. With the help of a force, it even began to resist the suppression of the emperor jar, trying to break free from Chu Fengmian's hands. You want to take it back? This fragment belongs to me. The spear of the emperor. Break. Chu Fengmian sneered and grabbed the emperor jar in his hand. Suddenly, the emperor jar in Chu Fengmian's hand turned into the spear of the emperor jar and stabbed at the emperor jar fragment. No matter how many fragments of the emperor jar had been refined by Yin Jun, it only had the power of 1 fragment after all. The spear of the emperor that Chu Fengmian had condensed now contained the power of 5 fragments of the emperor jar. The moment it blasted down, crack. The power on the emperor jar fragment that still wanted to resist was immediately shattered. It no longer struggled, and the mark that belonged to Yin Jun was completely erased. With the mark erased, the emperor jar fragment became an ownerless object. Chu Fengmian gathered a stream of spiritual energy in his palm and injected it into the fragment of the emperor jar. Immediately, Chu Fengmian's mark was injected into the emperor jar fragment and refined by Chu Fengmian. The moment the fragment was refined by Chu Fengmian, it flew toward the ancient jar and merged with the fragment. The 6th fragment of the emperor jar was in his hands. When the 6th fragment of the emperor jar fused with it, Chu Fengmian could sense that the power of the emperor jar had increased tenfold. The power and aura it contained were completely different from before. Yin Jun's face turned ghastly pale when he saw this. He had schemed against Chu Fengmian for a long time, but now he had suffered a double loss. The 2-9 tribulations Emperor Gu of the Yin clan had both died in Chu Fengmian's hands. Now that the fragment of the emperor jar had been taken away and refined by Chu Fengmian, he was now in an extremely dangerous situation. Flawless, formless divine shadow. The moment Yin Jun saw Chu Fengmian refining the emperor jar fragment, he understood that he no longer had any chance to deal with Chu Fengmian this time. Immediately, Yin Jun took advantage of the spiritual power that had yet to disappear after burning his blood essence and unleashed an ancient secret technique. His figure gradually disappeared in front of Chu Fengyan. The figure disappeared without a trace. Not even the slightest fluctuation of spiritual power could be seen, as if he had disappeared into thin air. Chu Fengyan, I will definitely spread the news that you have the Emperor Jar. You can just wait for the endless pursuit of countless experts. Don't even think about getting what I can't get. The moment Yin Jun disappeared, he left behind a sentence in an extremely arrogant voice. Is that so? You want to spread the news? You don't have a chance. Get out here. Chu Fengyan's face was extremely calm. He gathered spiritual power in his palm and suddenly grabbed at the void where Yin Jun had just been. At the place where Yin Jun was just now, there was no longer a single person. But as Chu Fengyan reached out his hand, the void began to shatter. In this void, a figure was suddenly caught by Chu Fengyan's palm. Ow, how could you find me? This figure was none other than Yin Jun. Yin Jun looked at Chu Fengyan with horror. Chu Fengyan was too terrifying. He had invincible strength and powerful trump cards. Now, even his secret technique could not be hidden from Chu Fengyan's eyes. The secret technique he had just displayed seemed to be to escape by driving the escape light. But in fact, he was hiding in the depths of the void. He was in the same place and did not move. But his figure was hidden in the depths of the void. Almost no one could see his figure. He had deceived countless people with this move. Even experts half a step away from the celestial realm might not be able to see through it. But now, it was directly exposed by Chu Fengyan. Ridiculous. Chu Fengyan looked at Yin Jun as if he was looking at a joke. Chu Fengyan had the bloodline of ancestor Tianlong. His control of space was unparalleled. Even he did not notice the existence of the spatial fluctuation just now. If Yin Jun's escape light could even deceive Chu Fengyan, then this person was probably an expert of the celestial realm. Therefore, Chu Fengyan could see at a glance that Yin Jun was just hiding his figure. As Chu Fengyan made a move, he grabbed his figure and pulled it out. Yin Jun's figure was caught in Chu Fengyan's palm. He could not escape even if he wanted to. Let me go. Let me go. I'm willing to help you deal with the Mu family and even the Yin family. I know all the secrets of the major families in the Yin Luo star field. I also know the location of many secret treasures in the Yin Luo star field. Yin Jun kept begging in Chu Fengyan's palm. This time, he was not scheming against Chu Fengyan. He was really scared out of his wits. However, Chu Fengyan didn't care about his pleas at all. His expression was ice cold as he exerted force in his palm. Amid the screams, Yin Jun was thrown into the sky-devouring mystic technique. The sky-devouring secret technique was activated. Soon, Yin Jun's body was destroyed. The essence and blood in his body were mercilessly devoured by the sky-devouring secret technique and turned into Chu Fengyan's power. At the same time, Chu Fengyan found a large number of rare items and ancient saint elixirs in the empty rings of Yin Jun, Mu Jiao, and the others. They had gained a lot in the treasury, not to mention that they had also obtained a large number of treasures in the 9 regions. Each of their empty rings was shockingly rich. These treasures originally belonged to the 9 regions. Now that they had fallen into Chu Fengyan's hands, it could be considered as returning them to their rightful owners. Chu Fengyan did not hold back. He threw all of these rare items and ancient saint elixirs into the sky-devouring secret technique and turned them into pure spiritual power. In Chu Fengyan's body, drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence were constantly devouring the spiritual power and began to transform into Dragon Emperor blood essence. Chapter 1643. Chu Fengyan sat on this plane. A gigantic dragon shadow appeared behind him, containing an incomparably tyrannical aura. With the condensation of drops of Dragon Emperor's blood essence, Chu Fengyan's aura became more and more tyrannical. 3,000 drops. As Chu Fengyan slowly opened his eyes, the amount of Dragon Emperor's blood essence in Chu Fengyan's body had reached 3,000 drops. These 3,000 drops of Dragon Emperor's blood essence had reached a small bottleneck, and Chu Fengyan also stopped cultivating. The illusory image of the Dragon Emperor behind Chu Fengyan also gradually dissipated. During this period, Chu Fengyan had killed many experts. First, he killed young Master Huang. Then he destroyed little Yao Wang Hanye's flesh and devoured 90% of his blood essence. This time, Chu Fumian also killed martial artists from the Yin and Mu families. Yin Jun and Mu Jiao's true strength had almost reached the level of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. This time, Chu Fumian had directly devoured the blood essence of 5 Tribulations Emperor Gu. In addition, Chu Fumian's strength had skyrocketed during this period of time with a large number of ancient sacred elixirs and heavenly oddities obtained from these people's empty rings. It was time to restrain himself and consolidate his realm. Although Chu Fumian could still increase his strength by a lot if he forcibly increased his strength, Chu Fumian was not a short-sighted person. His future goal was the Celestial Realm, or even the peak of the Celestial Realm, the Ninth Order Immortal Emperor. Naturally, it was impossible to destabilize his foundation for a short period of strength improvement. With 3,000 drops of Dragon Emperor's blood essence, Chu Fumian's current strength was already unrivaled among the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. It was time to stop for a while and consolidate his realm. Moreover, Chu Fumian also needed a lot of resources to break through to the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. Taking advantage of this period of time, Chu Fumian could also accumulate resources and look for an opportunity to break through to the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. Now, with the increase of Chu Fumian's strength, the commotion caused by his cultivation was also getting bigger and bigger. Just now, when Chu Fumian was sitting on the plain and breaking through, it attracted the attention of several martial artists. Among them, a few Emperor Gu wanted to take advantage of Chu Fumian's cultivation to launch a sneak attack. However, some 7 Emperor Gu and 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu dared to sneak attack Chu Fumian Emperor Gu, and 8 Emperor Gu. There was no need for Chu Fumian to make a move. The spiritual power of the Dragon Emperor Shadow alone was enough to kill all the 7 and 8 Calamity ancient emperors. The remaining martial artists and Yao gods all retreated after seeing this scene. They didn't dare to provoke Chu Fumian anymore. I didn't expect the Yin family to have already extended their hands into the Daluo star field. It looks like the people of the Yin Luo star field have been coveting the treasures of the 9 domains for a long time. Fumian Emperor. While he was cultivating, Chu Fumian had also extracted Yin Jun's memory and obtained a lot of information about the Emperor Yan's Emperor Yin. What surprised Chu Fumian the most was that the Yin family had already extended their hands into the Daluo star domain. In the Daluo star domain, there was a chamber of commerce called the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. The Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce wasn't considered one of the largest star domains in the Daluo star domain, but it had a little reputation. There were branches of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce on many continents in the Daluo star domain. The owner of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce was the Yin family. Only a few people in the Yin family knew about this secret, let alone outside. No one in the entire Daluo star domain knew about it. Yin Jun was considered one of the geniuses that the Yin family had nurtured with all their efforts. He was a genius that had the hope of competing for the position of the next patriarch of the Yin family. That was why he knew the whole secret. Yin Jun and the others of the Yin family had also relied on the news of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce in the Daluo star domain to be the first batch of people to arrive at the 9 regions. For example, Yin Jun and the others had arrived at the 9 regions a step ahead of the cultivators of the 4 major forces of the Daluo star domain. That was why they had seized the opportunity to seize a large amount of treasures. However, a large number of the treasures had already been transported to the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. Although Chu Fumian had killed Yin Jun, what was in Yin Jun's spatial ring was only a small part of what the Yin family had obtained. The real bulk was in the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. It had already been transported out of the 9 regions to the headquarters of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce, the Flying Abyss Continent. I'll find an opportunity to loot the treasury of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. Chu Fumian muttered to himself. In Yin Jun's memory, the treasures of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce could be said to be endless. At the very least, it was thousands of times more than what was in Yin Jun's spatial ring. If he could loot all the treasures in the treasury of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce, Chu Fengmian would have the resources he needed to break through to the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. However, now wasn't the time. The Flying Abyss continent was extremely far away from the 9 regions. Even for Chu Fengmian, it would take more than 10 days for a round trip. Now, Chu Fengmian didn't have more than 10 days to waste. He had to wait for the upheaval in the 9 regions. After some time had passed and things had calmed down, Chu Fengmian would go to the Flying Abyss continent. In any case, there were countless treasures piled up in the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. Even if the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce wanted to transport them all back to the Yin Luo Star Domain, it wouldn't be possible in a short period of time. The matter of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce was just an unexpected surprise for Chu Fengmian. Previously, Chu Fengmian was also curious as to why the cultivators of the Yin family had arrived at the Crimson Continent faster than him. Therefore, Chu Fengmian deliberately left behind Yin Jun's memory. After some investigation, he discovered the matter of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. Of course, this time, Chu Fengmian's greatest gain from killing Yin Jun and the others was none other than the Emperor Jar. With a thought, the Emperor Jar appeared in front of Chu Fengmian. There were a total of 9 fragments of the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengmian had already obtained 6 of them. Now that the Emperor Jar had appeared, a part of it had already been repaired. At the same time, some of the broken lines began to condense. About half of it had been restored. An ancient and powerful force of the human emperor emanated from it. The Emperor Jar was no longer a fragment. It was more like a damaged spiritual weapon. Faintly, one could see the sharpness of the Emperor Jar when it was at its peak. Halberd out. Chu Fengmian's mind flickered and the Emperor Jar transformed into an ancient bronze halberd in his hand. The halberd of the human emperor. The ancient bronze halberd in Chu Fengmian's hand was vast and mighty, intimidating the heavens. Although the halberd of the human emperor and the spear of the human emperor were both transformed from the Emperor Jar, the power it contained was completely different. The power contained in the spear of the human emperor was unstoppable and could break everything. Chapter 1644. The ancient human emperor had enlightened all living beings. In many ancient books, it was recorded that the human clan was at its weakest in the era of the ancient human emperor. Not only the divine beasts and wild beasts, but even the barbarians and the demon clan viewed the human clan as nothing more than grass and food. According to legend, the human emperor used his spear to kill countless experts and swept away all his enemies. This was the origin of a spear. Then, he used the spear to sweep away the chaos and pacify the world. This was the human emperor's spear. In the end, he used the sword to set the rules and establish the human clan's current status. Few people knew that the 3 legendary weapons of the human emperor were all transformed from the human emperor's jar. This was not recorded in the ancient books. Later, Chu Fengmian learned about this when he used the jar to condense the human emperor's spear. When Chu Fengmian obtained the 6th fragment of the human emperor's jar, he could use the jar to condense the human emperor's spear. What Chu Fengmian wanted to condense the most was the legendary human emperor's sword. After all, Chu Fengmian was a sword cultivator. Only with a spiritual sword could he unleash his strongest strength. However, the current human emperor's jar could not condense the human emperor's sword. But as Chu Fengmian obtained more and more fragments of the jar, the power of the human emperor's spear would grow stronger. The power of the mortal emperor jar would grow stronger and stronger, and eventually return to the level of an ultimate immortal weapon. At that time, the human emperor's spear, as an extreme immortal weapon, would be at its strongest. I have obtained a fragment of the human emperor's jar in Yin Jun's hands. Next, I will look for the fragment of the human emperor's jar in the Pure Land Buddhist temple. Chu Fengmian quietly put away the human emperor's spear and returned to the appearance of the human emperor's jar. After obtaining the 6th fragment of the human emperor's jar, its power had increased significantly. Each fragment of the emperor jar was enough to strengthen the emperor jar by 10 times. This time, Chu Fengmian returned to the 9 domains with the original purpose of obtaining the fragment of the human emperor's jar. The fragment in Yin Jun's hands was a pleasant surprise for Chu Fengmian. There was another fragment of the human emperor's jar in the Pure Land Buddhist temple. However, Chu Fengmian was suppressed by the power of Buddhism in the hidden ground. As a result, his spiritual awareness was unable to reach out. Therefore, he was unable to detect the traces of the emperor jar fragment. However, Chu Fengmian was certain that the fragment of the emperor jar was in this hidden place. Most likely, it was the burial object of a powerful Buddha of the Pure Land school, buried in a mausoleum. Now that I have 6 fragments of the Renhuang jar, I should be more sensitive to the aura of the other fragments. Chu Fengmian quietly infused a stream of spiritual energy into the emperor jar. Instantly, a stream of pure spiritual energy emerged from the jar. This stream of spiritual energy spread out and investigated everything in the surroundings. After all, the mortal emperor jar was an extreme Tao immortal weapon. Even though it was already broken, the power it possessed still belonged to an extreme Tao immortal weapon. Compared to Chu Fengmian's current spiritual power, it was of a higher level. The suppression of the Buddhist restriction on the ground would also be greatly reduced. Soon, he found a direction in Chu Fengmian's mind. The emperor jar seemed to have sensed the aura of the other fragments and pointed Chu Fengmian in a direction. However, the distance was not close, so Chu Fengmian was unable to detect the exact location. At least, he had a direction. It was better than Chu Fengmian looking for it alone, like a headless fly. Let's go. I'll take advantage of the fact that the hidden ground mausoleums have not opened yet to find a fragment of the emperor jar to increase my strength. Chu Fengmian's figure flickered. After detecting the fragment with the help of the emperor jar, Chu Fengmian did not hesitate. He turned into a stream of light and flew in the direction indicated by the emperor jar. Soon, Chu Fengmian traversed a large area of the hidden ground. Along the way, Chu Fengmian saw many tombs that shone with treasure light. In this hidden ground, a large number of tombs were buried under the ground. Some tombs were hidden so deeply that it was difficult for others to detect them. They would only appear when they shone with treasure light. Although some tombs were hidden very deeply, they were still found by others, just like the golden-bodied Buddha's tomb. Such treasures would not shine with treasure light, so there were not many people fighting for them. Once the tombs that shone with treasure light opened, they could be seen clearly from dozens of miles away. There were countless experts in the grotto. Even the number of 9 tribulation ancient emperors was uncountable. Previously, before the Pure Land Buddhist temple opened, the number of experts gathered outside the Pure Land Buddhist temple had reached a terrifying level. Now, with the opening of the Pure Land Buddhist temple, more experts came from the returning ruined sky, the 9 domains, and even from other star domains. There were more and more experts in this hidden ground. For the treasures in the tombs, battles broke out at any time and place, especially in the tombs that shone with treasure light. It attracted countless experts to fight for it. Chu Fengmian passed by these tombs along the way, but he did not pay attention to them. With his strength, as long as he did not encounter experts of the half-step celestial realm, he would be able to take them. Chu Fengmian was almost certain that he could take the treasures in these tombs. However, Chu Fengmian did not intend to waste time. The fragments of the emperor's jar were more important than taking the treasures in 10 or even 100 tombs. Chu Fengmian ignored the treasures that opened right in front of him. He flew all the way and finally came to a valley. Just as Chu Fengmian approached the valley and was about to land, several purple figures suddenly entered the valley. Each of these purple figures contained an extremely strong power, more powerful than the ordinary 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Almost every one of them was an expert at the level of Master Phoenix, Little Yao Wang, and Han Yi. What made Chu Fengmian even more concerned was that these purple figures were not warriors, but demons who had concealed their demonic intent. Although Chu Fengmian looked no different from an ordinary martialist, he had dealt with the demon clan many times. He was extremely sensitive to the aura of demons. Now, Chu Fengmian could tell at a glance that these purple figures were demons. Chapter 1645. Among the Devil Clan, the bloodline determined the aptitude and strength. The Devil Clan, with a powerful and noble bloodline, was even strong enough to compete with the geniuses among the warriors. Young Master Huang, Little Yao Wang, Han Yi, these geniuses were almost strong enough to face the experts of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. They could fight one against two or three. Their strength was far beyond the ordinary Emperor Gu of the Nine Tribulations. And the strength of these Devil Clan experts in front of him was almost no less than young Master Huang and Han Yi. Even among the Devil Clan, their bloodline was most likely incomparably noble. They were the royal family of the Devil Clan, or even the royal family. Such figures were not common among the Devil Clan. It was the first time that Chu Fengmian saw so many experts of the Devil Clan gathered together. Chu Fengmian quietly hid his aura and watched the experts of the Devil Clan enter the valley. Then, their figures gradually disappeared. Seeing that the experts of the Devil Clan did not act strangely, they probably did not notice Chu Fengmian's existence. Chu Fengmian had obtained the 10,000 Thoughts Buddhist beads. In addition to the increase of his strength, his spiritual consciousness could now extend to a radius of about 60 miles. The moment his spiritual consciousness detected the experts of the Devil Clan, Chu Fengmian restrained his aura. Seeing that the experts of the Devil Clan did not notice Chu Fengmian's existence, they were completely unaware that Chu Fengmian was spying on them. These Devil Clan also entered the valley. Could it be that the Devil Clan has already discovered the underground mausoleum? Then it will be troublesome. Chu Fengmian watched the figures of the Devil Clan disappear into the valley. He could see that this valley was actually just a cover for its appearance. It hid its appearance with a kind of tyrannical technique. Once Chu Fengmian entered the valley, there would be another world. If Chu Fengmian rashly entered, he might fall into the lair of the Devil Clan. At that time, it would be dangerous. However, coming to the edge of the valley, in Chu Fengmian's mind, the guidance of the Emperor Jar became clear. The place that the Emperor Jar pointed to was inside the valley. The fragment of the Emperor Jar in the Pure Land Buddhist Temple was hidden in the valley. If Chu Fengmian wanted to get the fragment of the Emperor Jar, he had to go inside. However, even though Chu Fengmian's strength had increased a lot, he still didn't dare to rashly barge in. There were a total of 6 Demon Clan members who had just entered. Almost every one of them was as powerful as young Master Huang. Although Chu Fengmian had managed to fight 1 against 3 in the Mausoleum of the Golden Buddha, fighting 1 against 6 was a completely different concept. Even if Chu Fengmian were to use his full strength, he might not be able to gain any advantage from the 6 Devil Tribe sovereigns. Moreover, Chu Fengmian didn't know how many demon experts were hiding in the valley. Even the number 1 genius of the demon race, the young Emperor. Ever since he had entered the hidden ground, Chu Fengmian hadn't heard from him. However, Chu Fengmian knew that Xiao Di must be in the treasure trove. Whether it was the treasure or the Emperor's jar, they were all very attractive to Xiao Di. Xiao Di must have been buried there. He must have been planning something. If Chu Fengmian had entered the valley, he would have been killed. And if Xiao Di happened to be in the valley, Chu Feng would be courting death if he went in. I have to think of a countermeasure. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered as he thought of a countermeasure to enter the valley. A few more conveyance lights flew into the valley. They seemed to be a few martial artists. The leader of the group was a middle-aged man with blonde hair. He was at the center of the conveyance lights and had the most powerful aura. He was the leader of the group. However, Chu Fengmian could tell at a glance that this group of martial artists were also Demon Clan members in disguise. Chu Fengmian sensed a familiar power from the middle-aged man with blonde hair. It was a power that was very similar to his bloodline. Demon Dragon. This man is actually a demon dragon? Chu Fengmian glanced at him, and his eyes were filled with shock. The power that Chu Fengmian sensed from the middle-aged man was none other than the bloodline power of the Dragon Clan. This bloodline power was very similar to Chu Fengmian's bloodline power. That was why Chu Fengmian felt a sense of familiarity. The Demon Clan was a unique race among the Demon Clan. It was said that in ancient times, an ancient dragon emperor fell into the demon Tao and eventually turned into a tyrannical demon dragon. The dragons under the command of the ancient dragon emperor had all fallen into the demonic path and gradually formed the demonic dragon clan. The demon dragon clan inherited the purest bloodline of the ancient war dragon. Therefore, every demon dragon was incomparably powerful. In terms of bloodline, the demon dragon clan's bloodline was much purer than that of the many dragon clans that still exist in the world today, such as the Tianlong clan and the divine dragon clan. Therefore, although the number of the demonic dragon clan was not many, every expert of the demonic dragon clan was an expert of the devil clan with a prominent position. Chu Fengmian had only heard about the demon dragon clan in ancient books. He did not expect that this time, Chu Fengmian would see such a demon dragon with his own eyes. I can kill such a demon dragon and disguise myself as this person to enter the valley. I can also hide in it and take the opportunity to find the Emperor Jar fragment. Chu Fengmian came up with a plan the moment he saw the middle-aged man with golden hair. Chu Fengmian originally wanted to find an opportunity to enter the valley. The arrival of the middle-aged man with golden hair gave Chu Fengmian such an opportunity. The aura of the demon clan was very unique. Even if Chu Fengmian had a unique secret technique to disguise himself as a demon, it would be difficult to fool the eyes of the experts of the demon clan. However, the demon dragon clan was different. Although the demon dragon clan had joined the demon Dao, they were still dragons in essence. The aura of the middle-aged man with golden hair in front of him was pure dragon might. It just contained a little bit of demon will. Chu Fengmian was born with the dragon clan's bloodline. He was born with dragon might. It was not impossible for Chu Fengmian to imitate this little bit of demon will. Just do it. Chu Fengmian thought for a moment and no longer hesitated. He was not the kind of person who would hesitate over and over again. Chapter 1646. Chu Fengmian concealed himself and approached the golden-haired middle-aged man. There were 17 or 18 people in the golden-haired middle-aged man's group. Apart from him, the rest were Asuras, Yikshas, and other demons. Most of them were around the level of 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu, so Chu Fengmian did not take them seriously. However, the golden-haired middle-aged man's strength was extraordinary. He was at the peak of 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu's realm and was much stronger than Master Phoenix and the others. He was the most powerful 9 Tribulation ancient emperor that Chu Fengmian had ever seen. The demonic dragon clan possessed the purest bloodline of the war dragon among the dragon clan. Together with the demonic will, their bloodline was incomparably noble, and they were invincible in the same realm. In addition, the golden-haired middle-aged man's realm was already at the peak of 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu's realm. He had the potential to break through to the half-step celestial realm. Chu Fengmian had to be careful when dealing with such a demonic dragon. Chu Fengmian concealed his aura and quietly approached the group. The moment he approached the group of demons, he happened to hear their discussion. "Master, why did the young emperor summon you in such a hurry this time?" Standing beside the golden-haired middle-aged man, an Asura of 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu's realm asked in a low voice. An Asura of 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu was almost an emperor among the Asuras. He had an extremely high status in the demon clan. However, in front of the golden-haired middle-aged man, this Asura emperor lowered his status to an extremely low level. Every word he said was laced with a hint of flattery. In my opinion, Master's future achievements will not be inferior to the young emperor. Master has obtained a lot of opportunities in this treasure trove. Once you step into the half-step celestial realm in the future, even the young emperor will not be your match. Master, you don't have to care so much about the young emperor's orders. Another Yiksha emperor of 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu's realm also spoke. It's fine if you say that in front of me, but be careful not to let the young emperor hear you. If that happens, I won't be able to protect you." Hearing the flattery of the surrounding demons, the golden-haired middle-aged man pretended to be angry, but his eyes were filled with joy. The few devils beside the middle-aged man were well aware of this, so they hurriedly flattered the middle-aged man. After a while, the golden-haired middle-aged man waved his hand and interrupted the flattery of the people around him. "This time, the young emperor didn't just summon me. He summoned almost all the experts of the demon race in the hidden land. It seems that the young emperor has discovered something. Otherwise, he wouldn't have acted so rashly. The blond middle-aged man said, "What did you find?" There were treasures everywhere in this treasure trove. With the young emperor's strength, why would he need to make such a big fuss? What kind of treasure can stop him? The Azura sovereign asked curiously. The young emperor could be said to be the most powerful expert of the demon race. He was a terrifying expert at the peak of the half-step celestial realm. Even if they had flattered the golden-haired middle-aged man, they still had to admit the young emperor's strength. With the young emperor's strength, there should be no treasure that could stop him. It seems that you don't know yet. Let me tell you, so that you won't act rashly later. The golden-haired middle-aged man scanned the surroundings, as if he was looking for someone who was spying on them. After a while, he lowered his voice and said, "Do you know Demon Emperor Shuexia? Demon Emperor Shuexia? There was once a supreme demon emperor in the demon race. It was said that he was an expert comparable to the Ten-Sky Demon Lord." Several devils spoke one after another. As members of the demon race, they naturally knew of Demon Emperor Shuexia. He was once the most dazzling and terrifying demon emperor in the demon race. Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum is in this treasure trove. The young emperor brought us here for Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum. The golden-haired middle-aged man said slowly. Demon Emperor Shuexia of the demon race was the Buddha of the Pure Land. The Buddha of the Pure Land raised demons all his life, but in the end, he was corrupted by demons and became Demon Emperor Shuexia. Later on, Demon Emperor Shuexia attacked the Buddha temple of the Pure Land and died in the temple. The golden-haired middle-aged man said slowly, "This is a secret of the demon race. Don't tell anyone about it. This is the place where we are going to the Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum." Several devils were shocked when they heard the golden-haired middle-aged man's words. Greed flashed in their eyes. Demon Emperor Shuexia was a famous expert in the demon race. There were countless treasures in his treasure trove, all of which were priceless treasures to them. Whoever could get a part of the treasures will be able to soar to the sky. After you enter, be smart. If you encounter any treasures, take them and give them to me. I won't neglect you. The golden-haired middle-aged man glanced at the other devils and said with a hint of viciousness in his eyes, "However, if I am to find out that you all dared to betray me and embezzle the treasures, do not blame this emperor for being impolite. Master, don't worry. We will give the treasures to you." When the other devils saw the viciousness in the golden-haired middle-aged man's eyes, they hurriedly promised. Everyone gathered together and continued to fly toward the valley. Demon Emperor Shuexia was the Buddha of the Pure Land. The mausoleum of the Buddha of the Pure Land was the mausoleum of Demon Emperor Shuexia. Chu Fumian was shocked when he heard the golden-haired middle-aged man's words. Demon Emperor Shuexia was a famous demon emperor in the history of the demon race. Chu Fumian had heard about him in the ancient books. He was known as the strongest and the most ferocious demon emperor in the demon race. Back when the Demon Emperor Blood Demon had dominated the 9 regions, many top powers had died at his hands. Who would have thought that Demon Emperor Shuexia and the Pure Land Buddha of the Pure Land sect were the same person? If this news were to spread, it would cause a great uproar. There was no record of this in the ancient books. It seemed that only the records of the demon race had records about Demon Emperor Shuexia. It seems that we were right not to enter rashly. The young emperor is indeed hiding in the valley. Chu Fumian heaved a sigh of relief. Chapter 1647. Whoever could get a part of the treasures would be able to soar to the top. Once you're in, you'd better be smart. If you encounter any treasures, take them and give them to me. I won't neglect you. The golden-haired middle-aged man glanced at the other demons and said with a hint of viciousness in his eyes, "But if I find out that you betrayed me and embezzled the treasures, don't blame me for being rude. Master, don't worry. We'll give you the treasures we encounter." The other demons hurriedly promised when they saw the golden-haired middle-aged man's viciousness. The group continued to fly toward the valley. Demon Emperor Shuexia was the Buddha of the Pure Land. The mausoleum of the Buddha of the Pure Land was Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum. Chu Fengmian was shocked when he heard the golden-haired middle-aged man's words. Demon Emperor Shuexia was a famous demon emperor in the history of the demon race. Chu Fengmian had heard of him in ancient books. He was said to be the strongest and most ferocious demon emperor in the demon race. Back when the demon emperor blood demon had dominated the 9 regions, many top powers had died at his hands. Chu Fengmian did not expect Demon Emperor Shuexia to be the Buddha of the Pure Land sect. If this news were to spread, it would cause a great uproar. There was no record of this in ancient books. It seemed that only the records of the demon race had records of Demon Emperor Shuexia. It seems that I was right not to enter rashly. The young emperor is indeed hiding in the valley. Chu Fengmian heaved a sigh of relief. If he had rashly entered the valley, he would have died at the hands of the young emperor. 1 inch it seems that I have to sneak in. The Emperor Jar fragment must be hidden in Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum. Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum was in the valley. Obviously, the Emperor Jar fragment was hidden in Demon Emperor Shuexia's hands. If Xiao Di got his hands on the Emperor Jar fragment, it would be almost impossible for Chu Fengmian to get his hands on it. The young emperor already knew that Chu Fengmian had the Emperor Jar. If he got the fragment, he would guard it carefully and never give Chu Fengmian a chance to get it. By then, it would be even more difficult to obtain this fragment of the Emperor's Jar. Snatching something from a half-step Celestial Realm expert, or even a peak Celestial Realm expert, was no different from courting death. However, Chu Fengmian did hear an opportunity from the golden-haired middle-aged man's words. The tomb of the Demon Emperor Shuexia was difficult to open. The Golden Buddha's mausoleum to Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum. The power of Demon Emperor Shuexia was 1,000 times more terrifying than that of golden-bodied Buddha. Even the young emperor couldn't break through it in a short period of time. That was why he had gathered so many experts of the demon race. This also gave Chu Fengmian an opportunity to blend in with them. Let's get rid of that demonic dragon first. There was no better opportunity than to disguise himself as a demonic dragon. Given Chu Fengmian's bloodline, it would be difficult for the young emperor to see through his disguise. Chu Fengmian quietly flew to a place more than 10 miles away from the golden-haired middle-aged man and exposed his hidden aura. Chu Fengmian even activated the power of the battle dragon bloodline in his body. The dragon's might could be felt clearly within a 10-mile radius. The golden-haired middle-aged man and his group were still flying towards a valley when suddenly, the golden-haired middle-aged man came to a stop and scanned the area. He happened to see a beam of light flying not far away from him. The beam of light contained pure dragon's might. It was Chu Fengmian's beam of light. What a pure dragon's might! This person's bloodline is actually that of the ancient battle dragon. Although the golden-haired middle-aged man was a demonic dragon, he was still a member of the dragon clan and was very sensitive to the dragon's bloodline. The moment he sensed the dragon's might emerging from Chu Fengmian's body, he recognized the power of Chu Fengmian's bloodline. His escape light couldn't help but stop. He looked at Chu Fengmian with eyes full of greed. I didn't expect to meet such a pure-blooded dragon. It seems that my luck is not bad. This person's bloodline seems to contain some of progenitor Tianlong's bloodline. If I devour this person's bloodline, it will be much easier for me to reach the half-step celestial realm in the future. The golden-haired middle-aged man murmured to himself. The bloodline of progenitor Tianlong. It was a great attraction to any member of the dragon clan. The demonic dragons were strong because of their bloodline. Being able to enhance their bloodline was enough to increase their strength countless times. The golden-haired middle-aged man observed Chu Fengmian's cultivation and found that he was only at the level of 8 tribulations Emperor Gu. In his eyes, Chu Fengmian was just like an ant. Moreover, there was no one beside Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian was the only one. In the eyes of the golden-haired middle-aged man, Chu Fengmian was simply a walking piece of fat meat. Bring that brat to me. The golden-haired middle-aged man glanced at an Azura emperor beside him and immediately ordered, "Yes." Upon hearing the golden-haired middle-aged man's order, the Azura Emperor turned into a ray of light and flew towards Chu Fengyan without any hesitation. On the other side, Chu Fengyan pretended that he didn't notice the golden-haired middle-aged man, but his spiritual consciousness was constantly paying attention. Seeing the Azura Emperor's ray of light flying towards him, Chu Fengyan couldn't help but sneer in his heart. However, Chu Fengyan's expression was still calm. He pretended that he had just noticed the Azura Emperor's presence and hurriedly sped up the ray of light, looking extremely flustered. He turned into a ray of light and flew directly towards the distance. Upon hearing the golden-haired, middle-aged man's words, several members of the demon clan were shocked. In their shocked eyes, incomparable greed flashed across their eyes. Demon Emperor Shuexia was a well-known expert in the demon clan. There were countless treasures left in his hideout, which were all priceless treasures for them. Chapter 1648. The Demon Clan? You are for the Demon Clan? Chu Fengyan was terrified when he heard Long Maluo's words. He roared in horror as he tried to escape. Trying to escape? Long Maluo's lips curled into a disdainful smile. With a wave of his hand, Chu Fengyan's surroundings began to spin. Billowing demonic will surged and brought Chu Fengyan to the depths of the void in an instant. Layers of seals had been set up in the depths of the void. Even the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu would not be able to escape. Kid, listen to me if you don't want to die. Otherwise, I don't mind giving you to my subordinates to eat. Long Maluo stared at Chu Fengyan and said coldly. Chu Fengyan seemed to be frightened by the murderous words and did not dare to struggle. Long Maluo's eyes revealed a smug smile. Brat, since we're both dragons, I won't make things difficult for you. Today, if you obediently give up resisting and let me devour your bloodline power, I won't kill you. Instead, I'll give you some compensation. Devour my bloodline power? When Chu Fengyan heard Long Maluo's words, it was within his expectations. However, on the surface, he put on a look of extreme fear and reluctance. What? You don't want to? Long Maluo's expression turned cold when he saw Chu Fengyan's expression. Today, I will give you 2 choices. First, you give up resisting and give me your bloodline power. Then, I will not kill you and will give you some compensation. Secondly, you resisted and were killed by yours truly. The power of your bloodline belongs to yours truly after all. Since we are both from the Dragon Clan, I will give you one more chance. Choose for yourself. Long Maluo looked at Chu Fengyan as if he was looking at a pitiful ant. No matter how he resisted, he could not escape from his grasp. Long Maluo enjoyed the feeling of being high and mighty. That was why he deliberately gave Chu Fengyan a choice instead of killing him outright. Kid, you don't have much time left. Long Maluo sneered when he saw that Chu Fengyan had not said anything. If you don't choose now, you won't have another chance. Choose the first one. Choose the second one. Really? Unfortunately, I want to choose the third option. Suddenly, the aura on Chu Fengyan's body skyrocketed, bursting out with an astonishing aura. The surrounding demonic will was shattered in the face of Chu Fengyan's aura. That is to kill all of you. Chu Fengyan's tone was extremely cold. She was no longer trembling in fear like before. Long Maluo didn't seem to have expected Chu Fengyan to undergo such a drastic change all of a sudden. Moreover, Chu Fengyan's strength was still hidden. However, even though Chu Fengyan's aura had soared, Long Maluo could tell that Chu Fengyan's cultivation level was indeed that of an 8 Tribulation ancient emperor. Long Maluo's eyes were filled with disdain. A mere 8th Tribulation Emperor, Gu, wants to rebel against me. Send a few men to kill him. Yes. Upon hearing Long Maluo's order, the demons beside him moved one after another. First was the Azura Sovereign. His body expanded dozens of times, transforming from the appearance of an ordinary martial artist into a true Azura Sovereign. The bone sword in his hand also expanded dozens of times, bursting with true power. Die. The Azura Sovereign attacked Chu Fengyan with the bone sword in his hand. You're just an ant. Chu Fengyan sneered. Facing the incoming attack of the bone sword, Chu Fengmian merely raised his finger and pointed it forward. Chu Fengmian's finger pierced a bloody hole in the Azura sovereign's chest. Then there was a loud boom. The Azura sovereign's body exploded in the air, instantly killed by Chu Fengmian's finger. All of you must die. Chu Fengmian's gaze swept across the demons present. With a long roar, the battle dragon claw formed above his head and swept down. There was a loud boom. In front of the battle dragon claw, these level 8 ancient emperors couldn't even resist. One by one, their bodies exploded and died under the claws of Chu Feng's battle dragon claw. In the blink of an eye, all the demons present, with the exception of Long Ma Yuo, were killed by Chu Fengmian. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen 8 tribulation ancient emperors of the Devil Clan had fallen. Not a single one of them had escaped. You. Demon Dragon True Body. Raging Dragon Strike. Long Ma Yuo didn't expect Chu Fengmian to kill all the surrounding demons with a single move. Chu Fengmian's attack was so fast that those devils had already been killed by Chu Fengmian when he was about to intervene. They couldn't be any more dead. These demons were all experts under his command. They were the commanders of the demon army, but they were all killed by Chu Fengmian. This man is really powerful. However, the bloodline in his body isn't just the battle dragon bloodline. This is the aura of an emperor. He actually possesses a part of the Dragon Emperor bloodline. This bloodline was extremely rare in the ancient times, but it still exists now. Long Ma Yuo stared at Chu Fengmian, the greed in his eyes growing stronger. Chu Fengmian's bloodline was powerful and noble. For him, killing Chu Fengmian would bring him even more benefits. In an instant, Long Ma Yuo gathered his strength and attacked. The peak strength of the 9 Tribulation Emperor, Gu, immediately erupted. Rolling demonic will gathered in his palm, and he suddenly blasted a palm strike at Chu Fengmian. The moment the palm strike was launched, it turned into a huge black dragon claw in the air and swept toward Chu Fengmian. The dragon claw strike contained the demonic will and dragon will. These two forces were enough to be used by the Demon Dragon Clan. The power that erupted from this dragon claw attack was incomparably similar to the battle dragon claw. However, compared to the battle dragon claw, it was a little more bizarre. When it struck out in the air, it was ever-changing and impossible to guard against. Dragon Clan martial technique? The fallen Demon Dragon Clan doesn't deserve to be called a Demon Clan. Today, I will show you the Orthodox Dragon Clan. Chu Fengmian didn't panic when he saw the claw coming toward him. Instead, he gathered his dragon force and displayed the second move of the primogenitor in his palm. The Dragon Clan martial technique was derived from the 9 moves of the primogenitor. The second move that Chu Fengmian displayed was the most orthodox Dragon Clan martial technique. The 2 dragon claws collided in the air. Chu Fengmian's dragon claw contained the power of the second move of the primogenitor. It was invincible and broke Long Ma Yuo's dragon claw. Chapter 1649. What martial technique is this? Origin. This is the origin of the Dragon Clan. The orthodox martial technique of the Dragon Clan. Isn't this a martial technique that only our ancestors can master? Who the hell are you? Long Ma Yuo glared at Chu Fengmian and roared loudly. He was a demonic dragon at the peak of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. When he saw Chu Fengmian perform the second move of the ancestor, he immediately understood the mystery behind it. He immediately sensed the profoundness of this move. This move was almost representative of the Dragon Clan's orthodoxy. It was the most ancient and mysterious martial technique of the Dragon Clan. In many ancient legends, even the Dragon Emperor, who had stepped into the celestial realm, might not be able to master this martial technique. Now, it had appeared in the hands of an unknown person. Long Ma Yuo attacked repeatedly and performed countless killing moves, intending to block Chu Fengmian's attack. However, as Chu Fengmian's figure flashed and took a step forward, the Dragon Emperor's shadow behind him roared loudly. Long Ma Yuo's countless killing moves were shattered one after another. Chu Fengmian rushed towards Long Ma Yuo. Oh no, this person is really difficult to deal with. Long Ma Yuo kept retreating, knowing that he had hit an iron plate this time. He originally wanted to deal with Chu Fengmian and seize his bloodline power to increase his strength. Therefore, he used a supreme technique to drag him and Chu Fengmian into the depths of the void. Once one was trapped in the depths of the void, it would be extremely difficult for one to get out. This move was originally used to deal with Chu Fengmian, so that Chu Fengmian wouldn't have a chance to escape. Now, he had shot himself in the foot. In the depths of the void, it wouldn't be easy for him to leave, even if he wanted to. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was still chasing him from behind, so there was no way he would let him go. Demonic Dragon True Form. Long Ma Yuo roared loudly, and the power of the Dragon Clan bloodline on his body burst out completely. His body also changed in the void, turning into a pitch-black demonic dragon that was hundreds of feet long. Two dragon claws immediately attacked Chu Fengmian. There's no need to struggle. You're just a little demonic dragon. Unless you've stepped into the half-step celestial realm, your struggles are meaningless in front of my bloodline. Chu Fengmian sneered at the sight of Long Ma Yuo's true form. The power of the Dragon Emperor's bloodline surged out from Chu Fengmian's body, turning into rolling dragon will that enveloped the Dragon Mara. The Dragon Mara's bloodline was at most the primordial battle dragon bloodline. Chu Fengmian's current bloodline, however, contained some of the primordial Dragon Emperor's bloodline. The hierarchy of bloodlines was engraved on the bodies of every dragon. In the face of a more noble bloodline, he would be suppressed. If it was to deal with other noble bloodlines, such as the royal bloodline of the devil race, or even the legendary royal bloodline of the devil race, the strength of those devil race powerhouses was almost not inferior to the strength of the devil dragon. Chu Fengmian would be even more difficult to deal with. However, Long Ma Yuo was a demonic dragon. The power of the dragon race was imprinted in his bloodline and could not be erased. The power of Long Ma Yuo's body was reduced by a full 30% under the might of the bloodline. It was already extremely difficult for him to fend off Chu Fengmian's attacks. Now it was one disaster after another. The continuous attacks bombarded Long Ma Yuo's body, shattering many of his scales with each blow. Damn it! Damn it! How can this person's bloodline be so powerful? Long Ma Yuo roared madly. His strength had been firmly suppressed by Chu Fengmian, so he could only hastily deal with Chu Fengmian's attacks. He couldn't even counterattack. He could see that although Chu Fengmian's strength was far superior to that of the Eight Tribulations Emperor Gu, he was at most on par with him. If they were to compete in strength, his strength might be above Chu Fengmian's. But now, because his strength was limited by the suppression of his bloodline power, he could only passively take a beating in front of Chu Fengmian. Under the continuous bombardment, Long Ma Yuo's body was on the verge of shattering. Old man, on account of the fact that we are both dragons, I'll give you a chance. If you submit to me, I won't kill you. I'll even give you an opportunity in the future to step into the half-step celestial realm. Chu Fengmian stared at Long Ma Yuo and said coldly. Long Ma Yuo was the strongest Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu that Chu Fengmian had ever seen. Although Chu Fengmian didn't know how long it would take for Long Ma Yuo to reach the half-step celestial realm, with such strength, even if 5 or 6 ordinary Nine Emperor Gu besieged him, they would still be killed by him. If Chu Fengmian didn't have the suppression of his bloodline power, he would only have a 50% chance of defeating Long Ma Yuo. Once he subdued Long Ma Yuo, Chu Fengmian's goal would be achieved. He could also leave a trump card for Sword Dao Sect to guard. Unless there was a half-step celestial realm expert attacking Sword Dao Sect, Sword Dao Sect would be safe no matter how great the danger. What a joke. You, a mere 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu, want to subdue me? Even a young emperor can't subdue me. What are you? If it weren't for the suppression of your bloodline power, I wouldn't be afraid of you. Long Ma Yuo roared madly when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. His eyes were filled with insanity. Even if I fall into your hands today, you won't be able to take advantage of me. Doomsday, Rising Dragon. Rumble. A golden dragon shadow suddenly flew out from behind Long Ma Yuo's back and soared into the sky. Following the appearance of the golden dragon silhouette, Long Ma Yuo's power reached its peak. He gathered all his strength on the golden dragon shadow, which contained the power of destruction. He was going all out. Doomsday, Rising Dragon. Chu Fengmian's eyes were filled with fear when he saw the golden dragon shadow. He had the bloodline of the Dragon Clan, so he naturally knew that this was the ultimate move of the Dragon Clan. Once it was released, death was the only outcome. It was a move that would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. It was the final move of the Dragon Clan. Chu Fengmian had once seen a flood dragon use this move when he was still weak. The power of this move was terrifying to the extreme. Long Maluo before him was a pure-blooded war dragon. The Doomsday, Rising Dragon that he used was extremely powerful. Even the surrounding space was trembling. Long Maluo was now forced into a corner by Chu Fengmian. He would rather die than submit to Chu Fengmian. This was the glory of the Dragon Clan bloodline. It's a pity that I can't subdue this person. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself when he saw the Doomsday, Rising Dragon unleash this move. This move meant that Long Maluo had decided to perish together with Chu Fengmian. Chapter 1650. The power of Doomsday, Rising Dragon gathered on the golden dragon shadow and roared. It contained the power of destruction as it swept towards Chu Fengmian. Long Mo Luo was an invincible figure at the pinnacle of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. At this moment, he had gathered all his strength and unleashed the power of Doomsday, Rising Dragon, which had already surpassed the Emperor realm. In terms of power, it was almost comparable to the five elements Saber Saint Saberlight. Even if this Emperor dies, I will fight to the death. The remnant dragon soul of Long Mo Luo roared crazily. Fight to the death. You don't have that ability. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. A spirit sword quietly condensed in Chu Fengmian's palm. Immediately, a beam of sword light slashed down. As the sword was unleashed, the power of stars shrouded down. The power of stars all over the sky condensed on the blade of the sword. When the sword light was unleashed, the power gathered into a river of stars and collided with the Doomsday, Rising Dragon. Rumble. In the river of stars, countless sword chi bombarded the golden dragon shadow. Even the power of the Doomsday, Rising Dragon couldn't break through the layers of sword chi in the galaxy. Countless sword chi in the galaxy were obliterated by the sword chi. The power of Doomsday, Rising Dragon was constantly being worn down. Long Mo Luo's dragon soul was also getting weaker. Die! Chu Fengmian suddenly opened his eyes. The spirit's sword in his hand slashed down again. It turned into a beam of sword chi that shot into the river of stars. In the river of stars, this beam of sword chi was aimed at the golden dragon shadow. With a loud rumble, it slashed onto the golden dragon's silhouette and forcibly severed it. No! Long Mo Luo let out a final roar. Along with the golden dragon shadow, his dragon soul was also destroyed by the sword light. Such a demonic dragon at the pinnacle of the Nine Tribulations, Emperor Gu died under Chu Fengmian's sword light. In the sky, only the pitch-black body of the demonic dragon was left. After losing the dragon's soul, the body had already lost its breath. It fell into the depths of the void and was about to be swept away by the void. However, Chu Fengmian had expended a great deal of effort to kill Long Mola to obtain this demonic dragon's body. How could he possibly allow it to be taken away by the void? Get over here. Chu Fengmian extended his hand and suddenly clawed at the void. The demonic dragon's body was caught in Chu Fengmian's hand and forcibly pulled out from the void. At the same time, Chu Fengmian activated the secret technique of devouring heaven. It transformed into a vortex and condensed in front of Chu Fengmian. With a wave of his right hand, Chu Fengmian tossed the body of the demon dragon into the heaven-devouring secret technique, where it was refined. Although Long Maluo was dead, the power of his bloodline was left behind. As a descendant of the primordial battle dragon, Long Maluo's bloodline was extremely powerful. His bloodline had already reached the peak of the battle dragon bloodline. If he were to take another step forward, he would be able to achieve the half-heaven realm. His bloodline would transform into the Dragon Emperor bloodline. At that time, even if Chu Fengmian were to fight with Long Maluo, he would not be able to gain the upper hand in terms of bloodline. Unfortunately, Long Maluo was still one step away. Chu Fengmian had seized the opportunity to suppress Long Maluo with his bloodline and kill him. His powerful bloodline power had now become Chu Fengmian's possession. What pure spiritual power! The spiritual power of Long Maluo's bloodline power is 10 times stronger than that of young Master Huang's bloodline power. This is the true power of a bloodline. As soon as Chu Fengmian activated the secret technique of devouring heaven, he could clearly feel the strength of the spiritual power in Long Maluo's bloodline. Among the countless experts that Chu Fengmian had killed and devoured, young Master Huang's bloodline power was the most powerful and had also brought him the most benefits. However, compared to Long Maluo's bloodline power, young Master Huang's bloodline power was on a completely different level. The Phoenix bloodline and the ancient Battle Dragon bloodline were originally on the same level, but young Master Huang's Phoenix bloodline was not pure. On the other hand, Long Maluo's Battle Dragon bloodline was even more powerful than an ordinary Battle Dragon bloodline. It had already reached the peak of the Battle Dragon bloodline and was about to transform. The difference between the bloodline powers of the two was like heaven and earth. A huge amount of pure spiritual power poured into Chu Fengmian's body. The countless Battle Dragon blood essences in Chu Fengmian's bloodline were now extremely excited. They planned to devour the spiritual power and start advancing. However, Chu Fengmian still suppressed the churning of the bloodline power in his body. Instead, he waved his hand and Long Maluo's bloodline power began to condense in Chu Fengmian's palm. Long Maluo's spiritual power continued to condense in Chu Fengmian's palm and turned into a red blood crystal. Now that he had devoured Long Maluo's bloodline power, Chu Fengmian did indeed have the opportunity to break through and step into the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. However, Chu Fengmian's realm was currently unstable. A rash breakthrough could affect his foundation. Although Chu Fengmian was currently in the depths of the void, he was extremely close to the valley. Every time Chu Fengmian cultivated, there would be a huge commotion. Once he broke through to the next realm, the impact of the explosion could be noticed from hundreds of miles away. In this hidden place, Chu Fengmian would be in great danger if he attracted the attention of some powerhouses. Therefore, even if there was an excellent opportunity to step into the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, Chu Fengmian forcibly held back. He would first condense Long Maluo's spiritual power and wait for a good opportunity to devour it and break through to the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. In a few minutes, the demonic dragon's figure within the sky-devouring secret technique grew smaller and smaller. In the end, all of its bloodline power was devoured and refined by Chu Fengmian. It turned into a blood crystal the size of a fist in Chu Fengmian's palm. The blood crystal contained Long Maluo's spiritual power. Anyone who saw it couldn't help but feel afraid. Chu Fengmian glanced at it and put it into the depths of his spatial ring. After killing Long Maluo, I'll disguise myself as him and go into the valley. Chu Fengmian closed his eyes and seemed to be thinking about something. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian opened his eyes again. A surge of spiritual power enveloped his body. Then, Chu Fengmian's figure flickered repeatedly and suddenly transformed into a pitch-black demonic dragon. This pitch-black demonic dragon looked exactly like Long Maluo. Every movement, every detail, and the aura on his body were exactly the same as Long Maluo's. Chu Fengmian observed the changing aura on his body. The dragon might on his body was almost exactly the same as Long Maluo's. In fact, he could vaguely feel that the dragon was even more tyrannical. In terms of bloodline, Chu Fengmian's was even nobler than Long Maluo's. Chapter 1651. Chu Fengmian had transformed into Long Maluo, and the dragon aura emanating from him was almost identical to the real Long Maluo. However, Long Maluo was a demonic dragon, but he was not a pure dragon. There was another power within him, and that was demonic intent. The demonic will on him. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed as he pondered. With his current means and the demonic will he condensed, it wouldn't be a problem to deceive the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. But this time, it was highly likely that the young emperor was hiding in the valley. Given the young emperor's ability, he would be able to see through Chu Fengmian's identity in an instant. If Chu Fengmian entered the valley, it would be tantamount to suicide. Demonic will. That's right, the king of inner demons. Chu Fengmian's mind flashed with one idea after another, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Nothing could be more realistic than the devil will of a real Devil Clan member. His mind stirred. The king of inner demons appeared behind Chu Fengmian. The king of inner demons had devoured many demons before, and his strength had risen to the level of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Although he was still far from Long Maluo's level, Chu Fengmian's means were enough to make up for it. Possess. Chu Fengmian commanded the king of inner demons, and the latter attached himself to Chu Fengmian's body. Chu Fengmian had purposely released the demonic will on him. At a glance, the current Chu Fengmian looked like a true demon. The king of inner demons had long been subdued by Chu Fengmian, and now that he had attached himself to Chu Fengmian, it was difficult for outsiders to detect him. Coupled with the faintly discernible dragon aura emanating from Chu Fengmian's bloodline, Chu Fengmian had transformed into Long Maluo. Whether in appearance, aura, or strength, he was no different from the real Long Maluo. Although it couldn't be said to be flawless, Chu Fengmian was confident that he could deceive the young emperor. After all, Long Maluo was a super demon, and the young emperor wouldn't be too suspicious of his identity. The young emperor almost killed me last time. It's time for me to give him a big present. Chu Fengmian's eyes were extremely cold. He had almost been killed by Xiao Di before, and Chu Fengmian would never forget that grudge. This time, if the valley was really the mausoleum of Demon Emperor Shuexia, there must be a lot of treasures in it. Other than the fragment of the Emperor's jar, which Chu Fengmian had to obtain, taking a few of the other items would be a blow to Xiao Di. Although Chu Fengmian was not strong enough to fight Xiao Di head-on, he would not let Xiao Di have an easy time. Let's go. Chu Fengmian did not waste any more time. His figure flickered as he flew out of the void. At the same time, he transformed into Long Maluo's human form. He urged the light to fly in the direction of the valley. Xiao Di must have used some mysterious method to conceal the valley. This method was so profound that even Chu Fengmian couldn't tell that there was actually another world within the valley, even though he was already close to it. It was extremely difficult for Chu Fengmian to comprehend the method of a half-step celestial realm expert. However, Chu Fengmian had already seen the group of demons entering the valley. Naturally, he was prepared for it. He stopped at a place near the entrance of the valley. Chu Fengmian slowed down, descended from the sky, and stepped into the valley. As soon as he stepped into the valley, Chu Fengmian felt the world spinning around him. Behind the valley was a mountain range. At the highest point of the mountain range was a glittering Buddhist temple that appeared before Chu Fengmian's eyes. The Pure Land Buddhist temple at the peak of the mountains. Chu Fengmian immediately understood the origin of this glittering Buddhist temple. At the same time, in addition to the Pure Land Buddhist temple, there was a strong demonic will in the mountains. This demonic will was much stronger than the demonic will in the Nether Ghost realm. It was simply a demonic realm. This Pure Land Buddhist temple actually existed in a demonic realm. These two completely different forces coexisted in harmony without any conflict. This scene was simply beyond common sense. However, Chu Fengmian knew that this was because the Pure Land Buddhist ancestor was the demon Emperor Blood Demon. That was why he could control the power of the Buddha and the demon and create such a strange world. The young emperor is not here. Chu Fengmian stepped into a strange demonic realm. He also spread out his spiritual consciousness to detect the experts around him. Many experts from the demon clan were hiding in the demon will. Many of them were cultivating, and a few of them were even as strong as Long Maluo. Almost every one of them was at the peak of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. However, Chu Fengmian did not sense the existence of any half-step celestial realm expert. It seemed that the young emperor was not in this demonic realm. This made Chu Fengmian breathe a sigh of relief. Without the young emperor, these demon experts at the peak of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu could not do anything to Chu Fengmian. It would be much more convenient for Chu Fengmian to do things. Long Maluo, why are you dawdling? Why are you so slow? You haven't even stepped into the half-stepped celestial realm. How dare you disobey the young emperor's orders? Suddenly, a purple figure appeared in the demonic will. It was a middle-aged man. This middle-aged man exuded a purple miasma. Chu Fengmian could see that the miasma exuding from this middle-aged man was a type of deadly poison. Even an ordinary Emperor Gu would be in danger of dying if he breathed in even a little of it. You don't have to be so sarcastic with me, King Manticore. If you don't like it, come fight me. Let's see who will live and who will die. Chu Fengmian snorted in the guise of Long Maluo. Chu Fengmian's tone was basically the same as Long Maluo's arrogance. At the same time, Chu Fengmian was also observing the middle-aged man in front of him. This middle-aged man was not a martial artist, but a unique beast of the demon race. He was the king of the manticores, the King Manticore. The purple miasma on his body was the unique poison of the manticore. The King Manticore was also one of the peak experts of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu in this strange demonic realm. His strength was close to Long Maluo's, but he was one of the latter's enemies. The Demon Dragon clan enjoyed a superior status among the demon race. The Manticore clan did not receive the same treatment as the demon race. However, as the Demonic Dragon clan gradually weakened, the Manticore clan raised their heads in dissatisfaction with the Demonic Dragon clan. The moment the Manticore king saw Chu Fengmian disguised as Long Maluo, it immediately began to ridicule him. Chapter 1652. The demon race was also rife with conflict. They were not united. However, the demon race had always valued strength above all else. It was purer than the relationship between cultivators. The King Manticore dared to mock Chu Fengmian because he was not as strong as Long Maluo, but he was not far behind. If he was a weakling, Chu Fengmian would not even need to speak. He would have killed him with a slap. Shut up if you don't want to die, King Manticore. I don't think the temple is open yet. Why don't you come out and fight me? Chu Fengmian stared at the King Manticore and said bluntly, among the demon race, Long Maluo was only polite to the young emperor. As for the others, he never gave them any face. Chu Fengmian had obtained all of Long Maluo's memories after killing him. The way he spoke was as intimidating as the real Long Maluo. The King Manticore's face turned cold when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. His eyes were vicious, but he did not dare to speak. After all, he was not as strong as Long Maluo. If they fought, he would be the one at a disadvantage. While the situation was in a deadlock, another figure walked out of the demonic will. This time, it was a woman who walked out. You two, stop arguing here. If you have the strength to argue, why don't you save it and wait for the temple to open so you can deal with those things inside? The woman looked like an ordinary cultivator, but there was a layer of complicated patterns on her arm. These patterns were not imprinted on her arm. They were part of her body and belonged to her in the first place. Demonic patterns. This is the royal family of the demon race. Chu Fengmian understood when he saw the patterns. At the same time, he hurriedly searched for Long Maluo's memories in his mind. Soon, he understood the woman's identity. Nightmare Princess, Meng Yanluo. There used to be 10 royal families in the demon race. They were the descendants of the ancestors of the demon race, the 10 heavenly demons. However, the ancient demon race had withered away. Only 3 of the 10 royal families were left. This woman was one of the 10 heavenly demons, the descendant of the Nightmare Heavenly Demon. She was the current princess of the Nightmare clan, Meng Yanluo. Meng Yanluo had inherited the bloodline of the 10 heavenly demons. Although it wasn't pure, the power of her bloodline was even more frightening than Long Mo Luo. Even though Meng Yanluo had yet to make a move, Chu Fengmian could sense that this woman possessed an unfathomable power. In the past, Long Maluo might have been arrogant, but he would not have dared to make Meng Yanluo his enemy. Nightmare Princess. Chu Fengmian nodded when he saw Meng Yanluo's arrival. He also restrained his aura a little. This could be considered as giving her some face. Seeing that Chu Fengmian had retracted his aura, Meng Yanluo looked at the King Manticore and said, King Manticore, Long Mo Luo, must have been delayed by some matters. Unlike the outside world, it's not a big deal to be a little late in coming here. Meng Yanluo's arrival was obviously to stop the battle between Chu Fengyan and the King Manticore. Your Highness is right. I was too reckless. The King Manticore took advantage of the situation and said, "All right, this time, the opening of the Buddhist temple is of great importance. Let's go there first. I'll explain it to you on the way." Meng Yanluo said as she turned into a ray of light and flew towards the peak of the mountain. The King Manticore and Chu Fengyan followed closely behind Yanluo. The mountain range didn't seem big, but it would take about 10 minutes to reach the end. The mountain range was still in the Buddhist temple. Due to the suppression of the Buddhist temple, the speed of light was much slower. However, Chu Fengyan was already used to it. He secretly followed Meng Yanluo and observed every movement in the surroundings. It seemed that Meng Yanluo and the King Manticore didn't notice Chu Fengyan's strange behavior. Now that he had sneaked in, Chu Fengyan's next goal was to find a way to get the fragment of the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengyan's gaze swept around and finally landed on the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. He couldn't sense the aura of the fragment of the Emperor Jar in the mountain range. The only possibility was that the fragment was in the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. This was a little tricky for Chu Fengyan. He originally wanted to take advantage of the young emperor's absence to get the fragment of the Emperor Jar. That way, even if the young emperor saw through his identity, Chu Fengyan could escape with all his might. After all, he had achieved his goal. But now, the fragment of the Emperor Jar was in the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. Chu Fengyan could only stay and wait for the temple to open. Long Ma Yuo, King Manticore, you two should know that the Buddha of the Pure Land is actually the greatest demon emperor of the demon race, Demon Emperor Shuexia, right? Meng Yanluo suddenly turned around and said to Chu Fengyan and the King Manticore while Chu Fengyan was thinking. Chu Fengyan and the King Manticore nodded. Not many people in the demon race knew about this, but Long Ma Yuo and the King Manticore were high-level figures in the demon race. They had known about this for a long time. This time, the young emperor found the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. That's why he sent out the message and asked you to come. It is said that the Pure Land Buddhist temple contains the treasures of the demon emperor Shuexia, and even his inheritance. Meng Yanluo said slowly, "There's a lot of danger in the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. That's why the young emperor asked you to come and help. However, the young emperor will not treat you unfairly. As long as you can break into the temple, all the treasures inside will belong to you. What about the inheritance of the demon Emperor Shuexia? Who will it belong to?" Chu Fengyan's eyes flickered with greed as he asked. Long Ma Yuo was a greedy person. Since Chu Fengyan wanted to disguise himself as Long Ma Yuo, he naturally had to do it flawlessly. The young emperor, of course. Meng Yanluo wasn't surprised to hear Chu Fengyan's words. She clearly knew Long Ma Yuo's character, but her eyes were cold. Of course, Long Ma Yuo, if you have the ability to compete with the young emperor, you can give it a try. Long Ma Yuo, don't you dare fight with the young emperor and die in his hands. The King Manticore sneered from the side. Shut up. Chu Fengyan snorted coldly. One arrogant guy. The King Manticore's eyes turned colder after being scolded by Chu Fengyan. However, he didn't fight with Chu Fengyan at this time. Instead, he asked Meng Yanluo, "What kind of danger is there in the Pure Land Buddhist temple that even the young emperor can't handle? Why do you need us to help?" Chapter 1653. After hearing the King Manticore's question, Chu Fengyan also braced himself and waited for Meng Yanluo's answer. The young emperor was a half-step celestial being. Now that he discovered the Pure Land Buddhist temple, he didn't fight alone. Instead, he invited King Manticore and Long Ma Yuo to help. Apparently, there were many troublesome things in the Pure Land Buddhist temple that required the help of Long Ma Yuo and King Manticore. It's nothing troublesome. It's just some remnant sword energy. After hundreds of thousands of years, its power is not worth mentioning. You can easily deal with it. Meng Yanluo said casually. Sword energy? Both Chu Fengyan and the King Manticore were surprised by this development. Obviously, this result was beyond their expectation. There was sword energy in the Pure Land Buddhist temple. Demon Emperor Shuexia was proficient in Buddhist and demonic arts, but there was no record of him knowing sword energy. Where did the sword energy in the Pure Land Buddhist temple come from? Could there be other secrets behind the fall of Demon Emperor Shuexia? Chu Fengmian pondered for a long time, but he couldn't come up with a conclusion. After all, Demon Emperor Shuexia and the Pure Land Buddhist temple existed hundreds of thousands of years ago. There were only a few records in the ancient books, but they were only a few strokes. For example, Chu Fengmian only knew about the evil blood demon emperor and the Pure Land Buddha from the ancient books. As for the fact that these two people were actually the same person, there was no record of such a secret in any of the ancient books. Chu Fengmian only heard about it from Long Ma Yuo. With his understanding, it was impossible for him to find out the secret. Meng Yanluo's words were also ambiguous. She only mentioned it briefly and didn't want to go into details. Chu Fengmian knew that there was no point in pursuing the topic. So, he changed the topic. What about the young emperor? Where is he now? Chu Fengmian was most worried about the young emperor. His disguise as Long Ma Yuo was enough to fool King Manticore and Meng Yanluo. However, Chu Fengmian wasn't sure if he could fool the young emperor. He had to be vigilant against the young emperor. The young emperor is busy dealing with some troubles, so he's not here right now. But when the Pure Land Buddhist temple opens, the young emperor will naturally appear. Meng Yanluo said casually. At the same time, their light gradually approached the Pure Land Buddhist temple. The Pure Land Buddhist temple was resplendent and dazzling. Among the thousands of Buddhist temples, it was the supreme peak. If Chu Fengmian didn't know the inside story, who would have thought that the master of such a Buddhist temple would actually turn into a demon and become a merciless demon emperor? All of you wait here. When the temple opens, you can enter. Remember, the treasures inside belong to whoever obtains them. Meng Yanluo brought Chu Fengmian and the King Chimera to a mountain peak near the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. Then, they disappeared without a trace. Chu Fengmian and the King Manticore landed on the ground. As soon as he set foot on the mountain, Chu Fengmian discovered that there were many tyrannical devils hiding in the surroundings. Long Mo Luo, King Manticore, you're here too. A figure appeared on the mountain peak, walked over, and said. It was a middle-aged man. Chu Fengmian felt that his appearance was somewhat familiar. Thinking back, Chu Fengmian remembered that he was one of the devils who entered the valley from outside. Night Devil King. Chu Fengmian had obtained Long Mo Luo's memory, so he recognized the middle-aged man's identity at a glance. The Night Devil clan was also one of the most tyrannical clans among the devils. The strength of this Night Devil King was not inferior to the super geniuses among the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. He was comparable to young Master Huang and little Yao Wang Hanyi. Of course, he was still inferior to Long Mo Luo, the overlord of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. When he walked over, his tone was incomparably polite. After all, whether it was Long Mo Luo or the King Manticore, they were both overlords among the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. Although he was also the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu, he didn't dare to offend these two. I didn't expect so many acquaintances to gather here this time. The King Manticore scanned the surroundings. The coldness in his eyes didn't diminish in the slightest. He turned back to look at Chu Fengmian and said coldly, Long Mo Luo, today is not a suitable day for fighting. Let's settle the scores between us another day. The King Manticore's figure flashed, and he left immediately, choosing to stay close to the figures of the devils. Obviously, he was good friends with these devils and had formed a small group. This time, the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land opened. According to the rules, the treasures obtained would belong to whoever obtained them. If these experts worked together and entered the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land, they would have more opportunities to obtain more treasures. Long Mo Luo, I wonder if you're interested in working together with me? The Night Devil King wasn't surprised to see the King Manticore leave. Instead, he looked at Chu Fengmian and invited him. I know you're powerful. If we work together this time, You'll get the lion's share of the treasures. I won't let you suffer a loss. That's right, Long Mo Luo. The danger in the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land this time is no small matter. Otherwise, the young emperor wouldn't have told us about the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. If we work together, we'll be much safer. Another devil expert approached. This person's figure was incomparably illusory. It was the Void Devil King, the Void Devil King. He had obviously teamed up with the Night Devil King to rope in Chu Fengyan. I've always been alone. I don't need to work with others. Chu Fengyan was incomparably arrogant as he sneered. What kind of danger can stop me? This time, I'm going in alone. I won't work with anyone. We're together? That's just the behavior of a weakling. Chu Fengyan's rejection was unyielding. If he teamed up with the Night Devil King and the Void Devil King, Chu Fengyan wouldn't be able to move freely in the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. His goal was the fragment of the Emperor Jar. As for the other treasures, they weren't that attractive to him. Moreover, if he teamed up with others, the possibility of his identity being exposed would be higher. Moreover, Long Mo Luo was arrogant to begin with. He didn't even have many friends. It was normal for him to have such a reaction. After Chu Fengyan finished speaking, he walked away, ignoring the Night Devil King and the Void Devil King. This Long Mo Luo is really arrogant. I didn't expect him to become more and more arrogant after so many years. The Night Devil King said with an unfriendly expression as he watched Chu Fengyan leave. He was also a devil expert. He had come to invite Chu Fengyan and offered him such generous benefits, but he was rejected so straightforwardly. This made him feel extremely embarrassed. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.